right, this morning, it's Monday, and we're looking into the second week of September. A little bit of traffic here and there is building up through parts of the city. Let's start off with what's going on Jogo Road. A little bit of movement here and there, getting towards the city centre. We'll see then movement on Landis, heading out towards Kamkunji. There's also some movement on the Thika Superhighway as well. Looks like it's going to be a busy Monday. All right, coming out of Western's, nothing happening right now. We'll see that moving over towards the traffic hour proper. A few minutes after 6 o'clock, let's see what happens closer to 7. Let's talk on Spice FM, KE on X.
Okay, how are you doing? Welcome to Monday. Kenya's biggest conversation goes live right now. Siti Muga, hujambo?
Si jambo.
Mambo vipi?
Sawa sawa.
Weekend ilikuwa vipi?
Very good. Yes.
Very good and very nice.
Kwa maridadi kabisa. Mambo ikawa tu shwari.
Mko bambam.
Yes.
Very good.
Ya hii inafuata hii na inafuata hii na inakuja straight line. Inakuwa mzuri.
Very good.
I know I've said nothing, but nothing needed to be said.
Nothing is a lot.
It's a lot. It's a great deal. Yes.
Nothing is too much.
Nothing is too much.
Ndu.
Yeah.
How about you?
How about me, isn't it?
Mambo?
What?
Hii computer inanisumbua, acha tu niseme ukweli.
Just tap it on the head.
If I beat it, they'll beat
No,
me.
tap it, just tap it on the head. See?
It's working now, huh?
You're all kinds of silly this Monday morning. It's refusing, man.
Kataa unacheza nayo kidogo.
Baridi.
Unacheza nayo kidogo. Yes, inaamka. How was your weekend?
No, weekend was all right. Yeah.
Good.
She was watching golf.
She was watching golf.
No.
Yes. There's somebody called Coco who won.
Time out.
And Joko.
Wait.
Coco and Joko.
CT it's not, I told you all right this morning. I was watching the US Open. Tennis. The lady's name is Coco Gauff. Gauff.
Golf.
Okay. Sound like daughter Gauff.
No. It's here. The paper.
Umeona?
Yes. Coco Gauff's rise in tennis.
She beat Sabalenka. It was a fantastic match to watch. 19 years old. Came onto the professional scene at 15 and won her first Grand Slam. It was really fantastic to see. She's done very well. She grew up watching the Venus and Serena sisters.
It's Coco.
That's Coco. I need to Coco.
Okay.
That's what I did on Saturday.
Why is it important?
That she won. It's just sports. It's
US Open, Baba. US Open.
It's one of the Grand Slams on the tennis circuit.
Yeah, so why is it important?
Okay, it's important because there was
Don't give me that look. Why is it important? Explain yourself.
Why are you shouting this?
Why is it important?
It's important to me, so it's important.
Why?
Because it's important to me.
Don't go.
I don't even know I'm following him to do this.
Rabbit hole. Where ungemuliza kwanza, bro? Thank you for the question. Now, let's start from the beginning. There's this sport called tennis.
Let's start. Do you know what it is?
Yes. Something like a small bat with a fishnet on it, and then people hit this ball, and then they keep hitting the ball towards each other. It doesn't seem to make much sense, but they seem to be having fun, and people are also enjoying it. That one, tennis.
Okay. Nesazawa. How is our girl doing though? Our tennis sensation. We also have our own teenager.
And she does very, very well indeed.
Yes.
Yes.
How's she doing?
And she is doing okay. Yeah. Okay, we are hoping the one of these days, she's done well on the African scene. The last I read of it.
Yes.
And at least she's making progress.
Yeah.
I've seen her winning a few matches. Now it's to see if she can break into this limelight where this Coco person is.
Into this other one.
Yes.
To the Coco areas.
Yes.
Sawa. You're also watching the Rugby World Cup?
I did not this weekend.
Why?
I was watching.
Because you were watching Coco and Joko. No, you didn't watch the Joko one.
It was yesterday. I didn't watch it.
That one, you didn't care for that one?
No, because Alcaraz was out, and so I was like, no, I wanted somebody else to win, and Joko had just been around for a minute.
It's important for these things to happen.
Which things?
Are we live streaming? Brian is our guy today. Yes, Evuxa says their live stream is on YouTube and Facebook, but then our thing is not working. Our thing is majiggy, so we can't see. We can't see who's online. It's okay. Let's just take it. Can you do weather though?
Nope.
Unaweza angalia hivi. Weka mkono nje hivi wasikie kama ukisikia baridi, tell us. It's coming up to 6:15. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. Our issues are just internal, but uko nje, things are working. So Ndu will check her phone to see who's online, and then she'll tell us shortly.
All right, we'll see highs of 21 in Nairobi today. Looking into Nyeri, highs of 22. Highs of 26 in Nakuru, and we'll see highs of 26 as well in Eldoret. Looking into Mombasa, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 28 in Malindi. We'll see highs of 29 in Kisumu and 29 in Kakamega. Looking out into Kampala, highs of 27 and highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam. 21 will be the high in Johannesburg, and we'll see highs of 30 in Lagos today, highs of 31 in Kinshasa. Looking out into Monday afternoon, Beijing, we'll see highs of 30. Paris will see a warm high of 32, and we'll see highs of 29 in London. Still, Sunday night coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 28 in New York.
It's 16 minutes after 6, Kenya's biggest conversation. So you're still having issues, eh? Don't worry. It'll connect. Be happy. It will connect shortly. When it does, you'll tell us who is online. City?
Yes, please.
Oh, you're unpacking the bag now?
No, I'm just removing the book. Unpacking the bag.
It'll happen later. Progressively.
Yes, but die.
Over the course of the 4 hours that we're in here this morning,
yes,
the bag will all be on the table.
Yes.
So
I will unravel the bag.
Very good. This week's Proverbs.
Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone.
I took an interest
in Sierra Leone.
In my reading, not just in Sierra Leone, in how things happen. A certain action is taken, laws are made, trades are formed, and then there are consequences. But one doesn't see where it will lead to. See, Sierra Leone is a story of how people were taken from Africa. I mean, people were taken from Sierra Leone, and how a trading post was actually created specifically for trading in slaves. Life goes on, they trade, then you have the American Revolution. Then suddenly, there are some black people fighting on the side of the British, ostensibly because they'd been told you'll be emancipated. Okay? Then as a result of this, some go back to England, but then they're taken to the West Indies. Some remain in London. And there are crimes all over the place and saying no.
So they're taken to the West Indies after...
Yes.
After fighting in the Americas.
Yes. Those who are fighting and some whom the British had actually domiciled in some of the other colonies they had. Okay? Because now, the call of freedom, the freedom cry is beckoning, and people are saying, slaves must be emancipated. This trade that we have in human beings isn't really a good thing. But then there's a population of black people in London, and then they're called the poor black, not the black poor. Okay? Suddenly, they're being blamed for all the crime, and someone says, we need to take this guy somewhere. This guy is being here is not helping us very much. So again, they figured there's this place we used to get them from, so we return some of them there. Now the problem is, it's not the ones who are taken from there. So long as you're black, they're taken. And a whole slew of activities take place. Because remember, it's not as though Sierra Leone didn't have people living there. There were people living there. I'll be telling you more of those stories as we go on in the course of the week.
So they didn't necessarily originate from Sierra Leone?
Not all of them. Not all of them. These guys, so you're black. Okay. Sierra Leone.
We have established like a post.
Post for you.
Like an outpost somewhere.
Go
on, stay there.
Yes. But many of these slaves were not from East Africa, they're from West Africa. Okay? Right. And so, of course, when they started developing it, what they were doing, many of them, remember they'd been in America.
Yeah.
It's the model that they had seen when they were slaves that they were using to set up. But the salient insinuation here is, remember, when you're a slave, you're treated in a certain way. So what do you think when a slave gains freedom and realizes that there are people that they can also treat in the way they were treated? What do you think will happen?
They become slave lords.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is what often happens. Learned behavior. Capital, Freetown. Hey, religion, believe it or not, 78.5 is Islam. Christianity is only 20%. Then I don't know why they keep writing others. Others as in anyone who just believes in anything they want.
If you're not one of these two, you're lumped into the rest.
Yeah, you are others. So you come to 1.1. Okay. May I read the proverb now?
Yes.
Quarrels end, but words once spoken never die.
Quarrels end.
They do.
But words once spoken
never die.
Never die.
Yes.
So be careful what you say when you're quarreling.
Be very, very careful what you say. You just be quarreling, but it's better to quarrel in sign language because someone will not be able to understand what you say.
Because that's the point when you actually say what you actually feel and think about this person.
What you honestly think. Yes.
You're a stupid person.
That is exactly, that person has summarized what they think of you. They've always thought you're stupid.
They just didn't get an opportunity to tell you.
Now the opportunity has brought itself and they're telling you're stupid. And usually you're not just stupid alone, you're stupid like.
Kwanza you think those are your children.
Yes.
Other truths come out.
Oi. Wah.
Now tell me, how do you claw back from
that one?
How?
You
made peace, all right, but what is that thing that you said about the children?
You take a deep breath.
We got to revisit that.
What did you say about the children?
If you're a brave man. I was just angry.
Havana. What?
Suddenly, this child whom you call mommy and the other you call daddy, this person doesn't look like us.
Yeah, by the way, this person,
this child,
even the mannerisms,
it's easier to setting in motion.
Yeah,
things which you later regret
completely
and at great leisure. Quarrels end, but words once spoken never die.
Never die.
Yes.
All right. So, madam, is it working?
No, man.
It'll work. Don't worry.
I've tried everything that I normally do.
It will
that
work.
normally works.
This thing, it will work. Don't worry. Let's look at the papers.
Okay, on the front page of the Standard today, this is our agenda. Whereas President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga have been the faces of the bipartisan talks, Kenyans from all walks of life are also having their say. The committee is receiving memorandum that will be considered in their final report. Okay, it'll be included, but I don't know what happens after that. Why push for new counties will not be a walk in the park. You're not just going to come and say, look, I think we should have County Ndu, and, it's not just going to be something you just come and suggest and we're going to pick it up, right? Why you will be able to grow teeth again?
Why you'll be able to grow teeth again?
Yes, and we're not talking about,
What do you mean? What does that mean? Why you'll be able to grow teeth again?
So after a certain age, you stop growing teeth, right? You're born with all the teeth. You're born actually with all the teeth that you'll ever have. they're located in your lower jaw, and then as the baby teeth fall out, the other ones come to the surface, right? And it said that after a certain age,
you're done.
So if they fall out, for whatever, you're knocked in the face because you're being an idiot, okay? Or you run into a pole, they would not grow back.
Right.
But apparently there's a study that says it is possible for you to grow new teeth even after the age of, 25. We'll look into that. Dollar zooms past 150. Omo.
Guy.
Target.
Omo.
200. Just give it 200.
There is a drama in the offing.
When it hits 200, it'll stabilize.
Omo. How many times have I said it this morning?
You've said it 4 times. One more
Only.
time.
Say another one.
One more time.
Omo.
Right.
Okay, that works.
Let me tell you another Omo rising situation. There was an earthquake in Morocco.
Yes, there was.
Terrible. Death toll is over 2,000. People who have been locked out of their shelter because of the quake have nowhere to go. That number is steadily rising above 4,000. Tunisia and Algeria, rather Morocco and Algeria, have had very, very sour ties over the last few years. But now, Algeria is saying, you know what, guys? We can understand that this is a very terrible situation. Let's open up our airspace for you and let's offer as much support as we can. Humanity then sometimes has a way of entering back into the door when things like this happen. But this was a terrible one. 2,000 people dead and counting. Unfortunately, the majority of people who have died so far are in remote areas. Morocco is very mountainous, and a lot of people have been affected in those areas. So getting to them has been quite a tortuous task, and it continues. The rescue efforts continue. We don't know what the numbers will look like today. So as of yesterday, it was 2,120. That was a terrible one to see the pictures coming out of. On the front page of The Nation, 48 hours of drama at Bomas. Are we still going there? Anniversary as a tense and anxious nation waited for the announcement of their next president. The National Tallying Centre in Nairobi was receiving visitors for various requests to IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati and his team. And the events of August 14th and 15th were possibly the defining moments of the election. Yeah, okay. So we're looking at that a year on. President Ruto is marking 1 year in office this week. That's what it looks like. Blow to non-local teachers in NEP as TSC declines transfer requests. There's been a whole, dog and pony show about, okay, look, can we get domiciled, or rather, can we get work close to our homes as teachers?
Okay.
TSC says, well, no. It's going to cause a bit of an uproar from what we are seeing.
This thing, okay, it's all right.
Yeah, we'll look into details of that story, right? More under 50s getting early cancer diagnoses and deaths, according to a study. Diets high in red meat, low in fruit, high in sodium and low in milk, as well as alcohol and tobacco consumption are the main risk factors for early onset of cancer. Wow. High in red meat, low in fruit, high in sodium and low in milk. Okay. So we'll look at more of those stories in details. All right.
Let me tell you about the Business Daily. The front page of the Business Daily, puzzle of Kenyan startups in trouble after 34 billion shilling funding. At least 8 Kenyan-born tech startups have closed down in the past 2 years, while a 9th one appears distressed despite having raised close to 35 billion shillings in investor funding in total, dampening hopes of the country achieving its Silicon Savannah dream. A Business Daily analysis has established that the 8 startups collapsed after absorbing a combined 11.2 billion shillings, while agri-tech firm Twiga, which has taken up 23 billion in venture capital, is presently sending disturbing signals. Can you imagine? They've received all this cash from investors. They're good startups, like Twiga Foods with 23 billion shilling in venture capital, and it's sending staff home, hundreds of staff home. Distress signals.
This is a call.
Others have actually collapsed with 11B.
Okay. This is a call for in-depth research. Why?
Exactly. What's happening here?
Why?
Because it's what?
For them to have been able to summon that amount of money, it means it wasn't just promise. There were clear indicators that it was likely to work. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
And the people who normally invest do a little homework before they go around putting their money in it. So essentially, What exactly were they not told, or what had not been anticipated? What is this thing that happened that no one could have anticipated, so one could not have planned for?
So fast. I mean, look, you receive money and within 2 years you're under.
How?
And you're not talking about receiving 10 million, Bob.
No, it's not even 1,000 bob.
It's hundreds of millions.
So what are you doing?
What are you doing, and what happened exactly that it was unforeseen? And what happened to the funds? And in terms of application of funds, what happened?
This is something that must be looked at, really.
Yeah.
Because at face value, it's like startups don't work in this country. That's not true.
It's not true.
That's not true. The question must be asked, what sort of people do they give this money to? Idea seems good. Business seems good. But what sort of people are these who are running? Okay. Do they have the capacity?
And up until this point, it was actually seen as one of the organizations in the country that was actually upward looking. It seemed to have, it seemed to have its ducks in a row in terms of what was going on with entrepreneurship and looking at it as an SME that was actually doing the right thing. The right thing to be able to survive in business has been mentioned quite a number of times. It has,
and you look at, who were the people running it? Yeah. Are they still there? Did they exit? If they exited, there are all these questions that must be asked. And I'm sure there'll be responses and answers to this.
There must be a change at some level.
Something happened somewhere, and you see it isn't one.
Yeah, it's a couple. Trigger has 23 billion shillings. We Farm, 4.7 billion shillings. Sandy has gone under with about 4 billion shillings. Sky Garden, 1 billion bob. A company called Brick, BRCK, 600 million. Zumi, 100 million. Kune, 100 million. Yeah.
So are we saying that Kenya has become a graveyard for good ideas? For good ideas? No, I don't think so.
Because they are originating from here. Okay. The other headline, deposits cross 5 trillion shillings as banks offer 5-year high rates. Deposits held in commercial banks by customers rose by 430 billion in 6 months. Hey, guy. In the last 6 months. What?
Yeah.
People are withdrawing from SACCOs. People are depositing in banks. 430 billion. Why? They have crossed the 5 trillion shilling mark for the first time, mainly driven by a weak shilling and digitization as banks try to woo customers with 5-year high interest rates.
The same question you asked about what's going on at these organizations.
These startups.
You have to ask, who are these people who are depositing?
Who's putting this money in
this kind of money in banks? Who are they?
Sheesh, man.
And the story is what? They're moving from SACCOs and going to banks?
No, not necessarily.
They're just people who had money.
Yeah.
No, the bank is saying, we'll give you some time to see how you can grow your money. They say, okay, have.
I have money.
Yeah.
And I am willing to deposit.
Yeah. And they're going ahead to deposit.
Are they transferring it from some other place or they just had it?
See, like
that's the thing.
Yeah. In Kenya, you can just have it.
Yeah, under your mattress, in a vault somewhere.
You can have it.
Yeah, you can.
In a cupboard somewhere.
400 billion. 430 billion. That's a rise in 6 months.
Which means, so that's money in the banks.
That is money that it has increased by that amount in
deposits
6 months.
In banks.
Okay.
You want to ask yourself, so what am I doing?
Tika headlines. Civil servants, bonuses and perks cost 4.2 billion shillings. Farmer SACCOs top loan defaults on drought hit. Fahari to block trading for those snubbing buyout. And then they have a feature on page 19 of the Business Daily today. And let me go into that one. Kenya's place in TikTok Golden Triangle project. They interviewed TikTok Africa Director for Policy and Government Relations, Fortune Sibanda. The firm outlines plans to offer creators more money-making avenues as it addresses growing concerns over explicit content. Aya. Mambo iko namna hiyo. City?
Yes, please.
The Star and the East African.
Yes. Both are with me here.
Right.
Star. These stories are interesting. Wambua. Frustrations pushed me to ditch media. This is the story of Kitui Senator Enoch Wambua, who I am told, according to this article, was once a journalist upon a time. Very good.
Worked in this organization.
This very same organization. Right here. Yeah. Okay, top right-hand corner. That delightful young person whom you mentioned earlier, Coco. Yes, over the moon. Coco on cloud 9 as she wins her first U.S. Tennis Open Championship. Hey! Well done, Coco. Well done. Right. Race for LSK top job on as young lawyers in focus. This presidency of LSK is hotting up many young lawyers. This is very good.
The elections are next year in March.
Yes.
And they've started campaigning now.
It's important. It's important.
Hii ni tanga hii.
Yes.
Badala kufanya kazi.
Badala kufanya kazi.
No, it's important. It's very good. Yes, very good. Right. Murkomen debate. Roads, billions diverted during Kenyatta reign. Money budgeted for roads in some parts of the country was diverted to other projects by the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Roads and Transport Minister, Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen has said. Does he know the kind of worms he's opening with this statement? We are going to look at his ministry and him. He had better make sure that the funds allocated for roads go exactly where they go. Yes, because the legacy beckons. If they were diverted, what were they diverted to? Well, that's a story on page 6, and I will tell you that story.
Okay, make sure you...
Bang in the middle! This one is important, and it's solemn. Tales of 1,000 injured cops crying for help. Officers injured in line of duty, enduring psychological distress. Have we not spoken about this time and time again and repeated ourselves until we almost hoarse? And we have said these people are victims. All these things you see happening, police this, police that, police this, container, these people are victims. Right. Then, bang in the middle also is a picture of Raila Odinga and a gentleman by the name of Simba Arati. Okay? This is the Catholic Church in Kisii yesterday. The campaign goes on. The campaign goes on.
Whenever I read the name Simba Arati, I remember Speaker Justin Muturi welcoming the first-time Member of Parliament, Simba Arati. Your name is? Simba. Arat. Simba.
Simba
Arat.
Your name, he's almost annoyed when he's saying it. He was looking irritated. Like,
And you couldn't get any other name. Sawa. Mimi brother.
Wait, see kuna East African bwana?
Yes, I have East African.
Ulikuwa tupatie headline pale East African.
Iko kwa bag.
Iko kwenye mkoba pale.
Yes, okay. East African. It has many stories, Outlook, Africa united over climate justice. This one is a statement of some truth, okay? This one is markets, investors at crossroads again. This thing of and
then they cross.
Yes.
Okay.
Those who can't see my hands, I was moving them up and down and across and across, meaning higgledy-piggledy, here and there. Tuko sawa? All right. News, bombs all over the city, no single blast. This is a story of where? Kampala. Who will fund East African resilience agenda? The challenge remains how those and how and where to raise traditional resources to implement the nationally determined contributions which are at the heart of climate mitigation and building sustainability. That is the story at the headline. Burhan, we are now in Sudan, is in renewed shuttle diplomacy for world support. On his third trip in a week, the Sudan military leader was in Doha, pledging peace as he seeks to isolate his rival. Regional forces stay extended amid protests in Congo.
Okay.
Gosh.
Tuachana nayo tu hapo. It's okay. Try and tell us what's happening on the roads.
Please.
So, just try.
Don't try.
Just try. Okay.
This is the Situation Room the only way to start your day.
All right, on the Thika Superhighway this morning, there's traffic coming in from the junction of Outer Ring, and even beyond that, to Garden City Mall, and way beyond that, to trickling of traffic in from Githurai. It's heavy, it's bumper to bumper. The service lanes are working. You might want to think about using those. Let's look at Kangunda Road, where there's in and outbound traffic, folks trying to get into the city and then touching on Outer Ring here and there. And then there's Jago Road, which is snaking along, getting towards Landis, very slow as you get onto Landis and then out towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. So that looks like it's going to be busy this Monday morning. Let's take a look at Gong Road coming into the city. That's also busy. Naivasha Road feeding in then towards Gong Road, then out towards Riara Road is also busy this morning, and it's also busy coming out of Westlands. Looks like it is going to be that morning. All right, let's look at Magadi Road and then leading on towards Langata Road. That's already busy. Into the city, it's moving really slowly past Multimedia University and then out towards Bomas at the junction and then through towards Langata Road. All right, movement is what we need this morning so we can keep things doing what? Keep them moving. In the meantime, let's talk Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
All right,
Nairobi.
to 7.
Okay, so why push for new counties will not be a walk in the park. All right, so there's a suggestion, and there is chatter from the assembly how they are pushing for this, but let's take a look. All right,
For new counties.
yes, 11 new counties no less. The push for the creation of 11 new counties is gathering steam, even as the constitutional experts warn that Parliament will have to form an independent commission to look into the proposals on whether the country is ready for counties to be increased from the current 47 to 58. Many questions already being asked in terms of how are we going to be able to handle, manage, etc., etc. Constitutional expert Bob Mkangi said that Article 188 of the Constitution provides for the procedure of altering boundaries, which cannot be done by simply adding them to the current ones. Mkangi, who served in the committee of experts led by the late Mzamba Gitonga, that saw Kenya get a new constitution, said a national conversation must be carried out on whether the country needs extra counties. So even before you go out and say, look, let's add 11 more, the question is, do we need them? He also said the question must be asked, can we manage them? Do we have in terms of revenue to feed an extra 11? Are we able to even sort out the 47 that are currently there? And many questions would be answered with a resounding no. That it is not possible right now to manage totally, completely the way that Devolution was asking that it be done. And now you want to add 11 more and have, do many things at the same time. Increase your revenue sources. You have to then your wage bill will now probably go through the roof. It's already through the roof. Are you going to be able to handle all of those things? Because what will you do? Administration, governance, leadership, revenue, so many things. So many things.
We have a problem in this country in that we all see government as the place where we should go and eat from. Okay, that's the problem. The creations of all these places, when the people are saying let's create 11 new counties, they're not saying let's create units that can serve the people. Let's create jobs. Let's create units that can afford jobs to our people. When the Courier are saying we want our own county, it's not because, it's because they just feel we want our people to be in leadership. And then when those people are in leadership, they'll employ our people. It is about getting into this thing that has all the money in the world. That's the only place we can eat from. When we're talking about creating new positions or for prime cabinet secretary, sijui leader of official opposition, it's creating jobs for people. It is so that we can just feel that there's something. It's annoying.
When you look at this whole process, and as you correctly put it, Eric, and as you correctly stated it earlier, the units that exist within the devolved governments, if properly empowered, can actually meet these needs that we're talking about.
Properly.
And the citizen can actually understand and will be properly served. Why is it that we are not seeking to actually fully implement the Constitution to see how the Constitution actually works and fully implement? You want to now scuttle it even before it's been fully implemented. So at what point will it be implemented? there was clarity of thought when this constitution was being put in place. And if you just look at the tenets of it, it was a good thing to read. It hasn't been hallowed as one of the best constitutions in the world for nothing. It's not as though people are looking for nice things to say about us. It's actually true. Now, if with the devolved system as we have it, MCAs, assemblies, all the members of parliament, if these individuals who are elected to these positions are unable to fulfill the mandate that is given to them, what do you think will happen if you have 11 more?
So the solution is you're already doing a mediocre job as it is, and that's just the truth.
To create more mediocrity.
So let's add more to it in the number of 11. I mean, come on.
You know, on page 12 of our standard paper, a gentleman by the name of Kidi Mwaga. Kidi is stone in Lua, so I don't know why he's called Kidi, but there it is.
Mwaga Mawe.
He has written the same thing. And he's saying, he disagrees with this thing completely. And he goes into how it is. The very process of setting the constitution was to do away with this element of tribalism. He said, but now you fragmented. What you're going to do now, you're going to institutionalize and entrench tribalism.
Proper.
Kabisa.
Yeah.
Because now, 11 more. It'll be like a couple of clans who more or less speak the same language and understand each other. So,
put them in the same country.
Exactly.
That's it. Ferment it properly.
We'll come back with issues. There will be people who will start saying, no. You know, yeah. Hata sisi tunataka yetu.
Yes.
The Duruma will want theirs carved out of Kwale.
They will. They will.
Say, okay, these diggers are too many on that side, let them occupy that side, that's guys on our side.
They will.
We'll go into Tana River and the people will also, it'll just be the same.
You're going to open the door and everything is going to fly in. That's the thing. And I'm saying already there's a complaint about what is available in terms of resources to be able to run the counties today. And complete, however, effective absorption has been an issue amongst the devolved units. We can call it whatever we want to call it, but that is the truth. Effective absorption of the available resources has been a problem. Other people will call it corruption. It is okay. But what are we looking at? Are you able to handle what is currently there? If you cannot, don't be adding more.
Yeah.
Don't.
But do you really think that anything that resembles that very sound logic is what our people are thinking or adhering to?
No, they're thinking about, we want a job.
No, we want to steal money.
To make money.
No.
Sorry.
It's not make.
Want to steal money.
No. When you make money,
you've worked, you've sweat.
You've worked.
Yeah.
Yes, and there is value that one can see.
Yeah.
These guys don't want to do that, because if that's what they wanted, the sort of monies that these counties have seen, believe me, they are monies that most areas in this country have never witnessed in their lives. Never.
In fact, those counties themselves had never witnessed this kind of money.
And they will tell you so. And because of, the strange thing, with all the wrongdoings we see, the little that has been put to use has changed many counties significantly. Now, so you imagine, what if they actually utilize this money for what it was intended?
Imagine, it would be like
how wonderful would these counties be?
It would be a dream.
Yes, it would, wouldn't it?
Yep. Even in the nation, there's a gentleman called Professor Kitile Naituli.
Yes.
Who is a former commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, who has also written the same thing. He says, before reforms, let's have a sober audit of our constitution.
Kabsa.
He says, just focusing on this call for 10 counties, devolution is central to Kenya's renaissance, and therefore, if a surgical incursion has to be made into Chapter 11, it must be informed by science, economic rationality, and patriotism. Before tossing that chapter into the tray of proposals for amendments in the cacophony of opportunistic and selfish noises, we must ask ourselves a few questions. What's the ancestry of the 47? 2. Has devolution lived up to its promise? 3. It's obvious there are a number of weaknesses. Can such be addressed by creating more counties? Let's not just create counties. Let's think hard, long and hard about it. There's a story on page 8 of The Nation, and it's about a young boy who, on August 20th, Liam Maina Kinaga walked into a local shop and bought a 5-shilling gadget called a vuvuzela. You see those two vuvuzelas? Yes. He had hardly enjoyed his new toy when tragedy struck, throwing the family into an emotional roller coaster. The young family has incurred huge bills, with the child currently admitted at KNH. Nation caught up with this. He swallowed a loosely fitted cup on the device. This thing is now lodged in his lungs. He is undergoing operations to remove that a small cup of the vuvuzela, which he swallowed, went into the lungs, stuck there.
Hey.
He says they have spent sleepless nights, the father. Both have been camping at hospital to watch over Liam, their only child, as he fights for survival. The son had gone to visit their grandmother at the sprawling Karagita estate in the outskirts of Naivasha town. He asked that I give him 5 bob to buy a piece of cake, which I did. Unfortunately, he settled on the vuvuzela. On several occasions, he remembered the boy had nagged him to buy him the plastic horn, but he had declined, fearing that it was unsafe for him. Oh, no. I've always been apprehensive of the horn, but it's packed with some sweets to entice the young ones. So he talked about the operations that they've gone for. He was operated on for close to 8 hours. The doctors were unsuccessful in removing the plastic cup. My son has been in and out of ICU, and the moments have been terrifying for me and my wife. The bill position for your patient admitted in Ward 3A is 244,000 as at September 1st. Make arrangements to settle the bill and update your NHIF to avoid inconveniences on clinical charges. He says his pockets are now running dry. He has done everything he can. The boy is still admitted to hospital. Mr. Kinaga is a taxi driver. He says, someone is sleeping on the job and the consequences are dire. As usual, we expect knee-jerk reaction from the powers that be. What will happen to people like us who are already shouldering the consequences? It's a clear case of neglect. For now, he's depending on the goodwill of well-wishers to help settle the bill. Can you imagine? Just such as one thing just goes completely south, and now you are camped at KNH.
Imagine.
It is such a sad thing for them. You can only wish them all the best.
I'm telling you.
You can. Sitio told us that the story you will tell us, that's in the Star.
I did.
Yes. Do you remember the story?
Yes, I remember the story very well. That is precisely what I am going to do.
Yes.
Right.
Starting now.
Yes. I looked at this story and I said, road millions diverted during Kenyatta rain. Remember? I said, this story I must tell you.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Page 6. Because headlines sometimes can be misleading. It says one thing and yet when you read the story, it's not quite what the headline stated.
Okay.
Money budgeted for roads in some parts of the country were diverted to other projects by the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Roads and Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen said, as a result of a few individuals in the previous administration benefited at the expense of many Kenyans. Our investigations show that most of the roads launched across the country were starved, were starved of money in the last 5 years of the previous regime because of political reasons, he said. The Cabinet Secretary made the remarks after inspecting Sacho Sigor Road in Chepalungu constituency, in Silbuet, Miregi, Kaporuso Road in Bomet East constituency in Bomet County. The government requires 700 billion to complete all roads projects, he noted. He also stated that the government has put in place measures to ensure that no contractor will leave the construction site before the completion of the project. Haven't we heard this before? As a ministry, we have taken the role of thinking over our contractors to stay in the site by giving them money, even if it's little, so that they can complete their work. This is gobbledygook.
It's gobbledygook of the highest order. I'm sorry.
Oh, God, Kipchumba.
You should, no. Because, just repeat that thing you said about to ensure completion of projects, that what was going to happen?
We're going to make sure that...
As a ministry, we have undertaken the role of talking to our contractors to stay in the site by giving them money, even if it's little, so that they can complete their work.
Talking to them.
Give them money, but like dog, continue working.
You know this...
So that they can finish.
Yeah.
And that's the way to solve the problem.
What do you want?
You know, this morning...
So giving contractor money will solve the problem.
This morning, my my Uber guy, because I have an Uber guy. I have Uber guys, okay? But there's a morning Uber guy.
Your cab guy.
My cab guy, every morning. Today, he asked me a very interesting question. He told me, I was thinking about something and I wanted to ask you. Are there any honest contractors in the country?
That's what you should...
he asked me. Asked him, okay, why are you asking me this? The guy's called Sila. He told me the stories he keeps hearing, and you look at the state of the roads in some places and their contractors. Says, and he wonders, so how dishonest are these people? And I told him, let me give you a perspective, okay? Let's say the road, and I give the example, the road from my official residence to my place of work, okay? Let's say it's supposed to cost 3,000 shillings, okay? That's road, you put everything, Lami, done.
Bells and whistles.
Yes. I said, problem will arise here because that contractor will be told by the very people who are supposed to ensure he does what he's supposed to do, that we would like X amount of money. So what he'll do, he'll lump it on top of what it is that the road is supposed to cost.
Okay.
And along that chain, there'll be very many people who want that. Then he'll do his arithmetic and say, how much will the government want from me? He knows, in terms of taxes, VAT. He'll add it on top of that. And then, just for good measure, because these guys are bothering him with all these requests, he'll add a little more to his profit.
Okay.
So the 3,000 I told him, don't be surprised if it becomes 9,000.
Okay.
Same road. I said, so you tell me, is this person honest or is he fighting to survive? And the tool is you fighting to use to survive is dishonesty. Which is it?
But then, Sila is asking, after this guy has gotten the contract, why can't he do the job?
The way
He had actually costed the job to be 300. See, he's gotten his 300 plus the
Can I give you
addition.
an example?
Why
A
did he do the job with the
A
300?
living, breathing, dusting example. Shepi, I told you people that they were doing road.
Yes.
I told you guys, right?
Yes. Did they do the road?
At some point, you people were even behaving like Thomas said that the road will not be done. I should have listened to you. They did the road. In
Up to
the
a point.
contract, because I saw it with my eyes.
You saw the
I
contract?
saw it like this. They were supposed to do 2.1 kilometers of road. And that meant that the one that I could see was going to reach point X. And I actually saw point X.
Okay.
Okay.
Because
And
you live near Point X.
You identified X.
We identified X. In fact, I marked the spot.
Find X.
I found X. So we saw very happy. They started digging. They did. I said, wonderful. The road is going to be done. Small time. We're seeing that movement has stopped at a particular point on this road. We kept asking, why are these people just stopping here? Luckily for them, the developer on an estate had done some cabro. So there's a part of the road that was already sorted because I said, look, I feel sorry for my people. I want to sell my houses. So they stop about 100 meters from the cabro. Remember, I
Okay.
told you that point X was there. So cabro had saved them. They should have gone beyond the cabro and finished.
Okay.
Okay? Some 100 meters, people are stopping. As in they keep digging, they stop. So we said, it's not possible. Maybe they are coming back next week. They will
It's
continue
phase 1
digging.
and phase 2.
Oh, story. That's how they now said that actually, no, this is where they are stopping. We said, I don't understand. From here until the place where the road is actually continuing is just 150 meters. How does Ndu know? Because the active residents went and did what? They measured. It's 150 meters. How do you leave this thing here just like this? They said, no, in fact, they realized that they don't have enough funds. I said, excuse me, the same thing CT is saying. I said, excuse me, you did, what do they call that thing? Where they do that, they use that tripod.
It's used by
Whatever.
surveyors.
Surveyors, those things.
They
do.
measured the thing.
They measured down to the meter. They said,
Okay.
based on this, how much it's going to cost. So now they said suddenly, they had to reduce because this road and the other one they were doing is wider, so they had to reduce here. So unfortunately, they've come to the end of the road.
So what had happened initially? They hadn't done the thingy magic
see that
before.
question?
They hadn't measured.
That's the question.
How
you're
are they?
asking.
When they were costing this road, they did not know the width of the road, the distance of the road.
It is not flesh and blood that has revealed this question to you this morning, because that is what we were also asking. Where were you? Were you guys here when you were measuring initially? What were you doing? So as we
Or
speak,
is it possible that maybe when whoever who is it under? Is it under Kenha? Is it under Kura?
it's Kenha. No, it's Kura. Sorry,
It's under Kura. I can imagine. That's under. So when Kura was advertising for the road, these are the specifications they put. So you cost according to what you've been given.
Yes.
It's a 2-kilometer road. It's X 9 meter wide, not 12 meters, and it requires X layers of maram and blah blah blah
And
blah.
it is not
so you
guessing,
cost
though.
for that.
It's not guessing. As you cost, you must go to the site. You go to the site. You don't just say, okay, I think that it can be based on a road that I have done somewhere in Kirinyaga. Let me now guess.
But why you went
No,
to the site? So you've been told this is it.
no, but you must. Which measurements are you using to cost?
What Kura has told you?
No, they don't. I remember I told you that I saw it. And I saw the
When Kura was advertising, did they tell you go to the road and tell me how long that road is?
No.
Kura have said, we are advertising for a 2.1 kilometer road, which is 9 meter wide, which we want loose cover or heavy cover, whatever.
Water drainage, storm,
water drainage and all. And so you cost using those
specifications.
Because they give you the specs. Cindy?
This same contractor plus engineer plus people from Mavoko also came and they did public participation at Notre Dame, and they came and sat down with everybody and said, this is what we want to do. So they had already taken their measurements. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not talking about something that came out and fell out of the sky. They came and they sat down and said, this is what we are going to do. I'm lending to this conversation that City is talking about, that you can just decide. They even told us, now, of everything that we've done, we only have 1.1 million shillings left. We finished the road until this point. We have 1.1 million shillings left. To date, 100 meters has not been finished. 1.1 million shillings, we do not know where it has gone. What? And they're telling us that, you know what will happen? In phase 2, there's phase 2 miraculously. We'll just come and finish this one that we've left as we continue. In this Kenya, as you're seeing with your eyes. So,
what does Kura say about all this?
Kura said that...
Because Kura is actually the one who has issued the contract.
They are.
And they're the ones who superintend those things.
What are their terms of reference? Was it 2 kilometers or was it 1.2?
2.1 kilometers.
Bas. So why are they paying for a shorter than?
Because of that thing that City has said. Did you remember what City said to you just now? It's a mess. What's going on with road construction in this country is an absolute mess.
It's just an avenue for people to eat.
Bad manners.
That's it. So are there honest contractors?
My response is, they are contractors who aspire to be honest.
They want to be honest. They just feel
aspire.
that, they hope.
Yes,
one of these
and
days
I gave him the example.
I want to be like that.
Yeah, I told him I would never have believed that what I was saying was true if I'd never lived to see Mwai Kibaki become president. Because I saw people who I thought would never be honest, being honest.
Being made to do honest work.
Yes.
Yeah.
My good Lord.
Exactly.
Okay. Keep it here for more conversations. So this week, President William Ruto is commemorating 1 year in office. How's he doing in terms of health? We will be joined by a clinical officer who will be here to talk about how is the health sector doing. We're gearing up to the launch of the universal health coverage. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The National Dialogue Committee between the government and the opposition has now been asked to include the issue of police brutality among its agenda in the proposals that are being presented by civil society ahead of the talks today. The committee has been asked to focus more on independent investigations and various allegations that have been raised against the police. These were several other proposals have been submitted in writing, are expected to be evaluated and listed, while some of those who have been submitted and are expected to appear before the committee themselves to defend their proposals. These, as opposition and the government continue to make statements that threaten the negotiations. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has accused the committee of including IEBC as the first agenda in the negotiations. Speaking in Meru County, Gachagua has once again emphasized that the election was completed and the constitution does not allow the review of the election results.
Your Excellency, you know, I and many people, your supporters, in millions, were against these talks with these Azimio people. But when you decided we talk, we don't argue with you, we agree. Lakini ile agenda nimeona imewekwa pale kwa mazungumzo rais, we don't agree with it. Ati agenda number 1 is to audit the 2022 general election. How? Those people have no capacity. There is no constitutional provision for anybody to audit a general election. That audit was done by the Supreme Court and a decision was made and you are declared validly elected and sworn in as the President of the Republic of Kenya.
However, speaking in Kisii, opposition leaders Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka have asked the government to pay attention to the talks, saying they do not want to waste their time.
Mazungumzo kwa sababu tumeweka Kalonzo na tutawapatia nafasi waongee vizuri, tupate suluhu ya kudumu kwa mambo hii tuko nazo. Lakini wakileta nyokonyoko simuko tayari.
On his part, Kalonzo leads the Azimio in the talks, has expressed hope that an agreement will be arrived at, especially regarding the Electoral Commission, IEBC.
Before we talk about 2027, we must settle 2022. Na ndio sababu tuko kwa mazungumzo. Agenda imewekwa wazi. Agenda moja ni hiyo imetajwa hapa kwamba lazima kuwe na electoral justice. Hiyo sio kusema tu tuweke makamishna wengine ambao wana tabia hiyo ya kuibaiba kura, lakini we want to get the electoral justice, including opening of the server. Kila kitu kiko mbele yetu.
And rebel ODM MPs expected this week to file a case in court against their dismissal from the party. Speaking in Migori County's Super South Member of Parliament, Karoli Mundi says that
to judge him, I mean, what really do you expect? Kuna makosa nimefanya to go and lobby for super people to get a road, and we must speak the truth. And I must also emphasize here, if we go to court, we are going to win. I am a lawyer, I am telling you this. We are going to win. Let me tell you why. There was no tribunal that tried us. That is why I'm saying this thing is going to embarrass the party.
the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, who attended Sunday service with MPs in Migori County, has called on party leaders to allow members to serve the voters and abandon selfishness.
If it is good for the party leader of a certain party to go to Mombasa and sit with President Ruto and talk about Kenya, it must be equally good for Nyamita to go and see the president and talk about Oriri. What is good for the goose is good for the gander.
Kiambu Senator Karungo Othangwa has hit out at United Democratic Alliance Secretary General Cleophas Malala for what he says is meddling in the county's internal affairs. In a recorded clip shared on social media, Othangwa alleged that Malala is colluding with Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi to threaten MCAs opposed to his style of leadership.
Mimi naheshimu chama changu cha UDA, naheshimu party leader wetu wa UDA, na mheshimu sana katibu mkuu wa chama cha UDA Cleophas Malala. Lakini ningetaka kumwambia mambo ya Kiambu, wachana nayo, sababu yule ambaye amepatiwa kazi ya kuangalia mambo ya Kiambu sio mwingine, ni seneta wa Kiambu.
This is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and we're looking at traffic. Different parts of the city this morning starting to build up quite significantly coming into the CBD. On the thicker superhighway, heavy traffic and bumper to bumper in very many parts. We looked at that coming in from Githurai, and it's heavy then through to the Pangani underpass, and it looks like it's going to be there for some time. All right, so also looking at it coming heavy in from Gong Road. Western's also looking pretty busy right about now. And into the CBD, then from Langata Road. So what's happening on Magadi Road? Heavy traffic as you're getting in then past Multimedia University, out towards Bomas and then onto Langata Road. It's going to take you all the way through to the city. Some of that's going to spill over towards Raila Odinga Way. But for now, this one we have to check and see how that opens up. All right, if you're getting onto the Eastern Bypass, there is some traffic there and it's slow moving coming into the junction at Outer Ring or going out towards the Eastern Bypass. All right, guys, it's a busy Monday morning and it looks like it's going to be even busier as we get closer to traffic hour. Talk to us about what's going on where you are. Let's try to keep things moving and let's talk on Spice FM, KE on X.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's the 11th day of September 2023. Happy Monday. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. If you just... What?
Oh, it's September 11th.
Imagine.
That day when that thing happened.
So this is the day.
It is.
Let me tell you, this month is in a hurry. Just the other day, it was the first.
It was August.
Now it's 11th. This month will be over before we can say whatever it is we normally say.
Yeah.
Before you can say boom.
But it is good. It
Can you
means
imagine?
September is over, the year is over.
Yeah. And when September is over, we move into October. And then comes the 29th of October. And then Diosisiao, Southern Bypass.
Kimbia. It's happening. It's Kenya's largest single-day athletic event, and it's back this year. It's bigger than it has ever been. It's the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. All right, folks have been running for years, and many lives have been impacted as a result of this. And we're saying, let's do it again in 2023. All roads lead to Uhuru Gardens on the 29th of October. It's a Sunday. There's a virtual run that'll happen a week late before that, and you can put your timings on the leaderboard. You can register for all of this, whether it's the virtual run, whether it's the physical run. Do it on www.nairobimarathon.com. Register with 2,000 shillings and come out and run. Remember, all proceeds go towards the Future Makers program. It's helping young people, especially girls and people with disability, to learn, earn, and grow. So let's do it for the 20th year. Come out to Uhuru Gardens on the 29th of October and run.
Kabisa. Okay. So what happened? About last year, William Ruto was sworn in as President of the Republic. He'll be marking 1 year in office this week. So before he got elected into office, he had signed several charter with various sectors. Yeah. You know, there's a county charter, the youth charter, the business charter, the charter. I don't know. Was there a health charter?
Yes, it was.
Not actually a charter, but we presented a memorandum and we had some agreements.
So you sat down and discussed the memorandum
for a whole day
with the candidates.
Yes.
And you did not sign anything. Everybody else was signing.
Yeah, we gave a memorandum.
This forms the basis of our conversation this morning. Peterson Wachira is the national chair of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. He is our guest today. We are looking at as the Kenya Kwanza administration marks 1 year in office. How's the health sector doing? Karibu sana, Peterson.
Thanks a lot. And,
good to have you here.
As I always say, it's an honor and privilege to sit here where great men and women sit and discuss matters of national interest.
Hey, Maskio City.
Sisi umeandika hiyo?
Great men and women sit.
Yes.
Have
great discussions
of
great meaning.
Very good. We also serve tea here, Peterson. Yeah. Chai ile chai ya maziwa.
Ile ya maziwa.
Ile ya maziwa.
Ile mzito.
Na maziwa bora ni Dairy Best.
Yeah, Western.
Dairy Best. Dairy Best milk. From Brookside. It's long life. You know that packet?
Yeah.
Right? That means you can buy it and take it wherever. All your union members, whatever part of the country they're working, they can actually have Dairy Best. Because it's long life. They can just store it. They don't need to think of free refrigeration. Just store it in a cool, dry place.
In the facility and we don't have time to go for lunch, we can also grab one.
Grab the Dairy Best.
Diet.
Yo.
Yes.
Daktari amesema. Bas.
Maziwa ni nguvu.
Bas. Bas. City. Give him the day's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the country of Sierra Leone. Quarrels end, but words once spoken never die.
Quarrels end.
Yes.
But words, once spoken, never die. Bwana Wachira, what do you make of this proverb? What's your interpretation?
I think first of all, at the face value, it's very true that when somebody is angry, they are bound to make some statements that may hurt the other person, that may deeply cut into the ego and emotions of the other. And as they usually say, that the people will forget probably what you said, but not how they felt,
right?
How it makes them feel. They will never forget that. So I think what it means is that you should be very cautious when angry, and especially on what you say, because how what you say makes the other party feel, even after that quarrel is over, they will never forget.
That's true.
Yeah.
Easily said than done, though, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Because at that point when you're in that argument, you want to inflict as much, you want to score.
You want to hurt, you want to injure.
You want to score points. So what you're just saying is, at that moment, just walk away. Just forget about, lose. Accept, agree to lose. Okay, I'm losing this one. I'm losing. Let me just walk away, because wewe nikisema hautakumbuka. So tell us about this meeting that you held with the candidate William Ruto as the health sector workers in the country. Who was in the meeting? How was the meeting conducted? Who invited the other?
Yeah, so before the election, I think that was around 2 or 3 months before. I can't remember the exact date. We were invited by his team to Catholic University, where we spent the better part of the day, I think from around 9 to around 3, just discussing matters health. And
who's we in this case?
We is the unions and the associations in the health sector. And we had a great conversation surrounding many issues that affect healthcare. And of course, on what we think would be the solution that would give us the health care that we actually need as a country.
Yeah.
I think at the end of it, we were able to present a memorandum. And it was not just a memorandum that probably the union sat back and thought of. These were resolutions from a convention that had been convened by the unions and that brought together all the players, basically all the players in the health sector. From the Ministry of Health, it was actually opened by the Cabinet Secretary and the chair of the Health Committee in the Council of Governors. So the Ministry and the Council of Governors were participating. We actually co-planned. And it was actually closed by the CS Labour, who read out the resolutions. We had all the association, including the Association of Patients. We had all the unions, we had the partners. AMREF actually was a co-convener of the same. And at the end of it, we came out with resolutions on what we thought would be the best path towards universal health care. And this is what we presented to the president, and actually part of the plan on health was actually informed by these resolutions. Yes.
So what was the agreement at the end of this meeting?
So
that the candidate and his team are going to look at this, and once in office, they will implement some or all.
It shouldn't be some. When you commit, you commit to what you have to implement 100%.
Okay.
So our discussion surrounded the fact that our health system was not working. It is still not working. And that we needed a remedy. And one of the reasons why it was not working, one was overemphasis on curative and neglect of preventive. And our understanding has been that when we say we want to guarantee Kenyans of their health, you cannot do that by basing your health system on curative. Simply, in simpler words, saying that we sit in the hospitals, then the citizens are on their own. Once you fall sick, then you find us in the hospital. That is not guaranteeing health. You can just guarantee them that I'll try and alleviate and restore once you're sick. So we discussed on a paradigm shift from the curative to the preventive, and I think that is something that is documented in the plan, and I can see that there are steps to move into that direction, into the primary health care, which is a good one. We also agreed that, and this was coming from the commitments that have been made by the government, that one of the reasons we even neglected the preventive and went for curative is because health workers became firefighters. In the past, we used to have health workers, especially clinic officers and nurses and public health officers. We could go to the community. We could go to the chief barazas. We could go to the schools. We could do family diagnosis, and we could prevent diseases before they occur. But at some point, because there was no commensurate employment in relation to the population growth, at some point we became too few. And so we became firefighters. You can only wait for those who are sick because you are not enough to also prevent.
Yeah.
And that is how we shifted from preventive to curative. It was not like a policy decision. It was just because of the shortage of healthcare workers. And so we decided and we agreed that this government, within the 100 days, they were going to employ 20,000 healthcare workers, actually broken down in the plan to be doctors, clinic officers, nurses, laboratory technologists, nutritionists, among others. And this was borrowing from a commitment of this country as signed by CS Macharia when he was the CS for Health in Brazil, when he attended a WHO conference on health human resource, that we were supposed to be employing 12,000 healthcare workers each year from 2013. By 2018, it was projected we should have employed 60,000. And by then, we had actually done less than 20,000. So the other thing we agreed was that there was need to have an emergency fund and for emergency diseases and chronic and critical illnesses. We're also seeing steps in that direction, and that's a good thing. We also agreed that we needed to have, in line of the promise of digital superhighway, that we can digitalize our information in the health sector. I have also seen a bill which we are interacting with, and I think that's a step in the right direction. We also agreed that there was need to have reforms in NHIF, and especially to ensure that it works for Kenyans. I'm also seeing some steps in that direction. We must give it to them. But we also agreed that the reason we have had over 100 strikes in the last 1 decade of devolution was because our modalities of management of health human resource, of health workers, was ineffective, and that we needed an effective way to manage health human resource. And so, and it is committed actually in the plan that he was supposed to midwife a health service commission that does not undermine devolution. And we went further. Actually, because this came from the resolutions that we had made in that meeting of March 2022 at Safari Park, we had laid down the process of achieving that. And what we had resolved as Kenyans, because that was a meeting of Kenyans on health, was that we needed a task force so that those people who are concerned with health can actually sit together and they can deliberate. The unions can say that we want a health service commission. The governors can say, no, that's not the solution. And then we ask, what is the solution? And we come to an agreement on what is the best way forward. But that task force, which we had agreed that was to be formed, has not been formed so far. Okay. We actually wrote to the president, and he wrote back through the chief of staff, and the responsibility was given to the CS Health. That is yet to happen. I think more than 6 months now down the line. So we don't know if actually we are still on that commitment to have the task force.
Okay.
Yes.
Peterson, one of the things that is coming out clearly is that there seems to be confusion on this side in terms of confusion in the mind in terms of what is going to happen based on what the memorandum said. The question is that was the memorandum collected and said we will act on this as an incoming administration? So that's something to think about. But then there's also the assumption that because UHC as an entirety, as a program, is being launched next month, that there could be fallacious assumption that matters health then are being attended to. You see what I'm saying? So because UHC being launched officially next month and them knowing that, okay, once you're going to have universal health coverage, that then certain issues will be attended to almost automatically. So there could be assumption that, well, we're handling this, and they're saying, yes, we said 100 days, but look, it took some time to get some ducks in a row. Do you feel that with the coming in of UHC, with the understanding that they have matters health somewhere in the front and center of their thinking, that these issues that you speak of will be handled?
Let me say that the promise on UHC by this government is actually an ambitious one, and it's a good thing, because what this regime promised is that we are going to move from universal health coverage to universal health care.
Yeah.
Those are two different things.
Indeed.
When you say universal health coverage, it means you get that service closer to you at an affordable cost.
Yep.
But now when you're moving to care, you also want now to audit that service in terms of quality. What type of quality, what quality of service are you getting? So when you're moving from just coverage to care, you're looking at quality. When you're looking at quality, you must then look at the 6 components that make an effective health system. Among them, and what has made actually, you had the CS saying that UHC has failed, I think 3 times. They are trying the 4th time. What has made UHC to fail is simply the avoidance on the conversation of health human resources. Because health is not like the other sectors where you can get machines, robots and whatever, and then you'll be able to probably produce. Health is human intensive. You have to have medics because it is the medics who offer that service. But we have seen continuous avoidance on the conversation of the health human resource. And now what you can see the government doing, though there was also a promise on the community health promoters, and which we actually don't have a problem with, except a few things that we want aligned. You note that up to this time, you cannot hear the government talking about employment of the mainstream health workers. And as long as we avoid this conversation, as long as we don't have a framework that ensures that we have progressively and a very deliberate plan to ensure that we employ enough healthcare workers to meet the WHO staffing norms and standards. That is 23 healthcare workers per 10,000 Kenyans in the community. There is no way, there is no magic, and there is no way we are going to achieve universal health care.
I'm sure, Peterson, you hear what has been said, whether it's been said loudly or whether it's been said, in the shadows. That in terms of I don't think that there's a shortage of health workers in the country. There are trained health workers, whether you're looking at doctors, nurses, clinical officers, lab techs, it doesn't matter what cadre you're looking at, there are enough. The problem here is that the power to hire or the power to employ, which most times is vested in the finances that are available, then becomes the issue. Do you think that there is an issue in terms of finances, county to county, coming from the National Treasury to hire the 20,000 that are needed? I think it's more than 20,000 that are needed in the country today. If we're looking at 1,000 Kenyans to one doctor, which is what almost the latest numbers are looking at, it's ridiculous. However, we're being told that there's just not enough to go round. There's not enough to employ. And when I say enough, I mean shillings. What do we say about that?
First of all, there are not enough trained healthcare workers in this country.
They're not.
Yes,
We're
all of
told
them
that
combined. Those employed in public, those employed in private, those who are not employed. If you combine them, we are not actually enough.
Really?
We really need to train more to get to that number.
So please explain. When you say they're not enough, what do you mean? At what point will we know they're enough?
Let me give an example of clinic officers. The ideal number, if you have to do both the preventive and curative, if you are going for that approach where you have the primary health care and the other levels of care, you would need one clinic officer for 500 Kenyans.
One clinical officer for 500 Kenyans.
Yes.
So you're inviting me to do the maths.
Yes.
Since we are 50 million.
50
plus.
million.
Yes.
So I just do minus plus. Okay.
And that would be, if we even went with a double, I think to one to around 1,000, and you are to divide 50 million by 1,000, what would that give you?
Okay, so if you did 50 million divided by 500, you get 10,000. So today, Kenya needs, if one clinical officer were to meet the needs of 500 Kenyans, you would need 10,000 clinical officers in Kenya today. Do we have 10,000 clinical officers in Kenya?
Not 10 more.
It's not 10,000.
It's more.
50 million divided
500.
by...
It's 500.
It's
50 million.
500,000.
Oh, it's 50 million. Sorry,
Yes.
I did 5 million.
Yes.
So it's 50 million divided, so it's times, okay.
That
So you
is
need
50,000.
Yes, you need 50,000. So do we have, so two things here. Obviously, we don't have 50,000 clinical officers in Kenya today.
The ones who are
Do you
registered for now are around 27,000.
Okay.
All
do
of
you,
them.
Do you have the capacity to train another 23,000 clinical officers? And we're speaking just as clinical officers. We're not talking about nurses. We're not talking about lab techs. We're not talking about doctors. Do we have the capacity to bring in another, train another 23,000 and bring them into active employment? That goes back to my original question, that most times you'll be told, well, we don't have enough wiggle room in terms of shillings to make this happen. From your point of view, is it possible?
Yeah, I think training, we can be able to increase the capacity and train more. But there is no incentive, since you train them, they are not absorbed. But the issue of finances, I think the government has enough money for its priorities. Why is it that we have a policy by the government that we're able to employ police every year, the army, the teachers, but not the healthcare workers?
Teachers will argue that they've not been able to hire every year.
In fact, teachers argue that what they do is they replaced retired teachers. They don't actually employ new teachers. So the number more or less remains constant.
In health sector, they don't even replace them. But let me say that health is not cheap. And what is the cost? What is the cost of not having these healthcare workers vis-a-vis an investment that you would make in employing enough healthcare workers? I think it has been shown that for every shilling that you are going to invest, especially in the preventive healthcare, you save 9 shillings out of 10. Okay. Every 1 shilling, you save 10 shillings. But look at it in this context, in terms of economics. When we are having a shortage, let's talk about just a shortage of clinical officers so that I can use it as an example. And to even bring the point home, I want to use a very close example. During the time of COVID, my dad got COVID. He appeared to the first facility. My dad is 70-something years. He appeared to a certain facility. They never diagnosed.
Public facility?
A public facility.
They never diagnosed.
What level?
COVID.
What level?
Okay. That's a level, I think a level 2.
Okay.
Then went to a private facility, around a level 3. Went to a facility where he was seen by, the 2 are clinic officers. The 3rd one was seen by a doctor. The 4th one was the Nakuru Provincial General Hospital. The first time, nobody picked. There is an elderly man. He's obviously having difficulty in breathing. It's during the COVID time.
He had all the symptoms.
He had all the symptoms.
Yeah.
So myself, because we would talk on the phone and I would tell there is something wrong, and of course I was talking to my mom, I sent him back and with instructions. They must do 1, 2, 3. And then he's diagnosed. Then through the process somewhere, they still let him to go back home. And by then, the oxygen concentration was actually 70 something.
Wow.
So I had to actually intervene. I went there, and by the time I was going there, he had to be admitted to the HDU. So of course I was very angry. But then, very objectively, I undertook upon myself to go and audit. Why did these people miss something that would be expected to be obvious?
Yeah.
So on going to Nakuru PGH, I found that one clinic officer sitting in that outpatient, on average, was seeing around 150 patients.
Per day.
Per day.
My goodness.
If you go by the timeline provided, if you are to see a patient for at least 15 minutes so that you can make a good diagnosis, the best you can do in 8 hours is about between 38 to 40 patients.
He's doing 3 times, 4 times that.
Yes.
He's doing 4 times.
What that means is by the time I'm doing my 100 patient, actually I'm fatigued.
You're tired.
The moment you are getting into that door, I'm wishing you can leave because I'm really fatigued. And so I'll be mentally crowded. If you are to Google the symptoms of fatigue, you'll see you lack alertness, concentration, you're mentally clouded. You cannot make a good judgment.
But is that even possible? Because what are we saying? If you're seeing 100 patients a day and you're giving each patient
3
an average
minutes
of 3 minutes,
it will come down to that.
Yeah,
It means
you
that
can
you're
only
not
see them for
giving.
3 minutes. You cannot see them for 15 minutes.
In that
because if
sector,
you
we
say
call it
15
clearing and
minutes,
forwarding.
Yeah.
if you say 15 minutes, that's 25
That's
hours.
why someone comes, unasikiaje?
Yeah.
Ilianza lini? Ilianza lini? And you
And that's what happens. Sometimes you are given a prescription before you sit. And I think that is where we have driven the medics, because then you don't see them. The MCA is there. We have seen our clinic officers being slapped by MCAs that they didn't see their patients.
Not seeing a patient.
But what I was coming to is that now imagine the money we paid to admit my dad to the HDU.
Yeah.
We had to sacrifice a lot.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of money. So if you look at the cost of that complication that comes from that misdiagnosis, if you look at the money you utilize because you had a disease that you would have prevented in the first place, and especially in Kenya that most of the people cannot actually use NHIF, they have to do out of pocket, then whatever we are losing cannot be compared with whatever we need to invest to just ensure that we have enough healthcare workers so that they can be able to take care of us.
That's a good one. Let's take a break. Let's take a break and then continue. 26 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, hosting Peterson Washira. He's the national chairman of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. We are looking back into the 1 year of Kenya Kwanza administration this week. How is the health sector doing? He's telling us the conversations that they had with candidate William Ruto, the conversations that they've had with the government of Kenya Kwanza this far. And are they happy? Are they not? We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yolanda Mulwa, DJ Absolute. When the gang is together, got the sugar, got the spice.
Yorada.
Yes.
I have missed you like hot hamburgers. Yeah?
Like hot hamburgers.
You know, bad boys give more money than you can count.
Hey, bad boys give more money than you can count. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock, but if I were you, I'd tune in to
Sugar and Spice only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So if you say it's on, then it's on.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see highs of 26 in Nairobi today, a chance of a drizzle later on. And looking into Nakuru, we'll see highs of 24. Thunderstorms expected later, currently at 16. Looking into Nyeri, it's 16 degrees. We'll see highs of 22. And then out into Eldoret at 17 degrees, cloudy conditions. Kisumu is cloudy this morning at 23. And in Kakamega, it's cloudy at 22. Mombasa, partly cloudy conditions at 25. And in Malindi, it's sunny at 25. Looking out into Uganda, in Kampala, we'll see highs of 25 and we'll see highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam. Looking into Johannesburg, highs of 21 and we'll see highs of 29 in Lagos, highs of 30 in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life.
The books on the Thika Superhighway this morning. It is crawling, literally on its knees, trying to get into the city, and that's traffic that's trying slowly to get its way into the CBD. It's going to be heavy for some time as we're getting into traffic hour proper right about now. Let's take a look at Langata Road, which is also busy, coming off of Magadi Road, which in its own right is quite messy as well. It's going to take you through towards Bomas and then out towards Langata Road, touching into the city much later. It was also coming in heavy on Jogo Road, heavy coming off Outer Ring in both directions. So keeping an eye on things and seeing how they progress. We're already in traffic hour and we're in it proper. Use your service lanes on the Thika Superhighway and then use your bypasses to get away from the traffic. We'll take a look at what's going on right around Westlands. Not too bad for now. Limu Road also is going to start its bleed into the city in a short while, but for now you can manage. Let's talk Spice FM, KE on X.
All right, the conversation continues 22 minutes to 8 with Peterson Washira, the national chairperson of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. We are talking about human resource for health, human resource in the country. Peterson, are you aware of the Kenya Health Human Resource Advisory Council?
I am.
That was established by the president.
Yes.
When was this established and what's the function of this? What are the terms of reference?
Actually, KHRAC, the Kenya Health Human Resources Advisory Council, is a product of the Health Act of 2017. Mm-hmm. The previous regime was unable to inaugurate it and to make it work because there was a problem with the governors. The governors believed that this was a health service commission, in other words. And of course, they fought it.
Yeah.
But what I think this government has done, and it's a good thing, it has managed to mediate. And now I think the government, the governors are actually on board. And now we have a full board. So it's operational and complete with a CEO. So what it does is that it is supposed to give policies in terms of health workers' welfare and schemes of service, in terms of posting and payment of interns in the health sector, rotation of specialists, among other things affecting the health human resource. So they're supposed to set the policies, including, and the most crucial, the inter-county transfers and the vertical ones from the national to the county governments, because we don't have that framework. So it is a very important council. The only problem is that it is advisory.
So it's operational now?
Yeah, it has been operational.
It's established by law.
Yes.
Hadn't been operational before. Now it's operational.
It is.
After conversation between the president and the council of governors and agreeing, look guys, this is what we need and let's have it.
Yes.
Have the interns who were employed by the national government during COVID, have they been absorbed?
Yeah, now you see, we have
let's go step by step.
Two different
levels of interns.
Levels of interns.
Okay.
So for the ones you are asking about, it was a case of use and dump. They were recruited during COVID. They worked for the government. Then when COVID was over,
you're done.
They were dumped.
Yep.
And I think it's a very bad practice that we are having in this country, and especially in the health sector, where you bring in some sort of contracts. You can see even what happened with the UHC. which was a good thing. That President Uhuru was very deliberate, wanted to capacity build the counties, increase the numbers. But then they give contracts that are a bit exploitative. And then you want, once that problem is over, though still you need health workers, you want to dump them. And we launched a petition with the Senate regarding that issue. We are expecting a report soon, so that these people can actually be absorbed, and so that we can also appreciate them. You can imagine, some of these guys actually died from COVID. But then those who remained, instead of a country honoring them, these are people who even deserve presidential commendation. So their contracts just ended, and that was it. Has there been a conversation at all about the fate of these workers? In any way, in terms of even the national government committing that we are going to renew their contracts and support the counties for a while as we build their capacity for them to be able to be absorbed by counties? For UHC staff, yes, there is that conversation, although we are having confusion because the summit met in Naivasha. They said we are going to extend for 3 years as we try and get a mechanism of absorbing them. I also know that there is a committee in place at the national level looking at that. Then the Public Service Commission came and said, no, it should be 1 year and then you absorb. And what is reflecting in their pay slips, it is that of the Public Service Commission. But the bottom line is that as long as then we will be able to absorb them and absorb them with the right pay, appreciating them, and also ensure that we don't give them the entry job group. This is a person who will have worked probably for 5-6 years. They should be going to probably the 3rd job group, because anybody who was recruited when they were recruited would be in a 3rd job group. Now, the other category, they were called CHAPS, COVID-19 Health Emergency Response Program. Those ones were let off, forgot, and they have really been petitioning. They came to us. We launched a petition with the Senate. We have been there with the CS Health. We have been there with the Chair Health Committee and Chair Labor in the Council of Governors. And the indication is that for their consideration, but we are hoping that happens because it's a very unfortunate. What's the position of the government on occurrence? This? So the government's position was that their contract ended. And that was it? Yes, yet these are people who gained very good experience and people that you'd expect that are being absorbed so that they can continue serving Kenyans. So on one side, we have a dire shortage, not my own words, but by the commitment from the CS of Health to WHO in 2013. On the other side, even the important human resource that we are having, we are not keeping. We are not establishing mechanisms. We ensure that we retain, and especially the expertise. And I think that takes me to another conversation about the contractual, the mode of engagement that we are using in the health sector, the contracts. You see, if we keep on giving these short-term contracts, because every governor wants to come in, give contract, and then they end by the time they are leaving. The other one comes in, does not renew, brings other new people. And the contracts which are very exploitative, you find somebody is being paid a third of what somebody on permanent is being paid, which is illegal. But that is not even the issue. The issue is, if we take this as a policy in the health sector, and then over time, those who are on PNP, most of them have been able to specialize because you can be taken back to school. You have enough money. You can even take yourself back to school. Now, when you have contracts and that are cheap and exploitative, it means, one, you cannot take them back to school because that specialization requires the time you have given them contract. Number two, they don't have even enough money to take care of their families. They cannot take themselves to specialization. So in 2 or 3 decades, when we on permanent will be phased out through retirement, I can assure you for a simple specialist, that gynecologist that you find next door, you might actually have to go to Uganda to get one.
So this then now makes the claim for, and I'm the case for what many amongst the fraternity have been advocating for, which is a health service commission.
True.
So the health service commission essentially will handle all these hiring matters. It doesn't matter whether you're working at the county level. It doesn't matter if there's a new governor or if this one is coming to the end of the administration. But what you do is then make sure that folks are employed across board. How would that help when we're looking at the devolved units?
True. And I think what we had committed, because we had a very candid conversation with the president. And the concern was, there would be a conflict with the counties because health is devolved. But actually, that is not correct. Health is not entirely devolved. Health is a shared function. Policy with the national, training with the national, capacity building with the national. The implementation is what happens at the counties. And that is why I always say that the buck stops with the president, because it has been provided in law that leadership comes from the national government, and the head of that is the president. So coming to the Health Service Commission, we had actually crafted, and we even presented during the BBI on what we believe can be a Health Service Commission that sits in well with the devolution. And this is what we are proposing, that we have a Health Service Commission that will be recruiting for the county in this way. The county sends their requirements and their needs to the commission. The commission can only employ as per the requisition of the county. Then the county will have delegated powers, especially on disciplinary redeployment within the county, but they cannot terminate you. If you need to be terminated probably or to move to another county, you go back to the Health Service Commission. And the benefit of this would be, right now, according to the PFM Act, your recurrent expenditure cannot go beyond 35%.
Yep.
We have been lumped in the recurrent expenditure.
At county level.
Yes. And most of them, they are not able to employ because they have surpassed the ceiling.
You people are expensive.
Yes, but no, we are not expensive.
Okay, go on.
But if we were to take it to another entity like the Health Service Commission, the same way we have TSC, number one, there wouldn't be those caps.
Yep.
If money is for recruitment given to the Health Service Commission, it's for recruitment. So a budget can be set aside from the Treasury for recruitment across the board. And that would not be in conflict with the county government. It would actually help them, because when you remove the health human resource, which takes a lot of their money, then they will be able to stock the drugs that are never there in the hospitals, to equip their labs, to ensure their reagents so that we don't send patients out. And it would probably make health better for Kenyans.
Why has it not worked that way?
It has not worked because of politics. I think...
Do you still think it's because governors don't see the sense of this point?
I may not be able to tell about the current governors, because probably they are only 1 year, and this is a conversation that we have not had. Some of them, by the way, they have indicated that this is something that can be considered. But during the last regime, the moment you said Health Service Commission, because I think at some point we met during the BBI, for the governors, it's the end of conversation, and they interpreted that to mean returning health back to the national government. Of which it's not true. We don't want it returned to the national government. We wouldn't even be happy to be at the national government. We want an independent commission that technically manages the health human resource, so that we rid health of this politics, where every governor wants to come in, remove those who are there, bring in my people, then next time you get a new governor and does the same. And do you know, in some counties, health workers are actually employed and called cashews. They actually call them professional cashew workers, and paid a third of what others are being paid. And these are the people who are supposed to now implement universal health care.
It is quite sad. We also know that health is a big ticket item at the county level. So county executives who've done well in the health sector often use it to, wave the champion's flag that, look, our health is in a great state, and we've been able to do that. So you can imagine a situation now when you want to remove something that gives you celebrity points and take it somewhere else, right? If it does well, it does very well. If it does badly, it does really very badly. And that's the truth with some of these examples that you're talking about people being paid a third of what they should actually be paid. Aside from the Health Service Commission, which we've seen the merits, of it clear when it comes to the protection of health workers, when it comes to that making sure that human resource for health workers is vested in some kind of order, what else would be necessary to get health as a sector off its obvious knees at this moment?
Very good. I think other than the Health Service Commission, and we continue saying this, we must be very deliberate about our health. And in being deliberate, we must also be able to put in plans. And one thing I like about our president, His Excellency Ruto, is that he's very deliberate about what he wants. And that is why we would like to request him that let's have the 20 employed and have a framework to
20,000
have annual recruitment. Yes, 20,000 as promised in the plan. And I know that the conversation is about the health promoters. And we have seen the 4 bills that have been brought and that they want to repeal NHIF and replace with the SHI and the other 4 bills. When it comes to health promoters, it is actually a good thing. And we will recruit 100,000. That's a good thing. But then we must be very cautious, because I've seen in that bill that we want the health promoters to offer first aid and to treat minor illnesses and injuries. But in the requirement for their, not employment, for their engagement, because they are not workers, you just need to be literate.
So are they going to be trained?
You don't need a health background.
Are they going to be trained to perform these functions then?
There is a training, I think a short one, which cannot,
it's not sufficient for the job that they're being given.
By saying minor illnesses and injuries.
Well, they're not being specific as to which injuries.
Yes, that would mean they even give antibiotics.
Can you diagnose malaria?
That's what actually it means. And we have had those suggestions that...
mtu akona malaria unampatia.
I think in even one of the meetings the president said hii magonjwa kidogo wanaweza kutibu pale nyumbani.
No, but actually, Peterson, when you talk of malaria, diarrhea, and pneumonia,
yes,
you actually can't treat it. But a study was done and has been done, and the findings out in the public domain,
yes,
about how it is these very community health promoters could actually diagnose syndromically, as I will tell you. But the understanding was not so that you treat it, so that you allay the problem before you pass it onward to a health worker, meaning you are in a village setting and somebody has fallen sick.
Yes.
And there's nothing you can do. So,
administer cold compress.
Precisely. There's something you can do. You're not going to suddenly say, okay, now, please prepare yourself, we're going to open up your chest. Nothing of that sort. But you can actually provide a care that will enable that person to go to the next place where they will actually receive treatment.
So that's what they meant by the...
No. Peterson has said... You have to specify.
That is very vague.
It has to be very clear.
Very dangerous.
And this person is just somebody being given a stipend of 2,500.
This is
and in the community they'll be called a doctor.
It's dangerous.
But it must be commensurate to then what they're actually able to do is what we're saying. That you cannot have the blanket statement whereby you say, okay, yes, we're going to give you a stipend of 2,500, 3,000 shillings, and then say anybody who rocks up to your door.
Typhoid.
Imagine.
Now, you
That's
see,
what I'm saying,
these people, they are community health promoters.
Yeah.
Health promotion is defined.
Yeah.
And health promotion is about educating people about the diseases in their locality.
Wash your hands, dispose of waste kind of thing.
How do you prevent it? Once you get it, how do you know you have it? And what do you do after I think in this country, there are guidelines as to how we should have the facilities. And that is, per every 5 kilometers, we should have a dispensary with at least a nurse and a clinic officer. So in a radius of 5 kilometers, you should be able to call them in case there is an emergency so that they can administer competent care.
Yeah.
But where we want to give them antibiotics, I had some suggestions that we give them amoxicillin to dispense in the village. And on the other side, WHO is talking about antimicrobial
resistance. Exactly.
That cannot happen. But that is not even the issue. If we get these health promoters, we bring them on, they are going to improve the health-seeking behavior. Kenyans are going to flock into hospitals.
Are you ready?
And then when they flock into hospitals, they find there are no medics. So the frustration that in the first place made them not to come to the facilities because of the long waiting times, even when you are saying you don't have drugs, if you are not going to sort that, it will become a zero-sum game. You promote it, they come to facilities, they get frustrated, then they give up and go back, and we are back to ground zero. So there must be a commensurate plan to also employ the mainstream healthcare workers, especially at the primary healthcare level, to ensure that there is a commensurate staffing level, so that when these people are now brought to the facilities, they can get that care and they will appreciate that actually now health is working. They will come back into the system. We are not seeing that. We have not heard that from the government. There is avoidance on this conversation of health human resource. But I want to keep reminding them that we can talk, we can employ the community health promoters, we can try all the other things. But if we do not get it right with the mainstream healthcare workers who actually deliver this service, it will be a zero-sum game. We will not achieve it.
So we can we can repeal NHIF Act and create these other bodies.
Yes.
We can have all these other bills, but for you, the bottom line is start with the 20,000 workers.
Because that service that you're promising them and you want them to gain when you're talking about creating a fund for emergency and critical care, who is suffering that service? It's a health worker. When you're talking about primary health care, you are talking about dispensary, health center, and the primary hospital, which is the sub-county hospital. Who is offering that service? It's a human resource. It's a health worker. When you are talking about the other one is about the digital superhighway. The people you still need are people who are trained on information, but who are still health workers. So the bottom line is we will have the bills. By the way, the bills are very good. Creating an emergency and critical care fund, that's a tick. Primary health care and that paradigm shift to prevention, that's a good thing because we are going to bring the cost of running health down. When we talk about SHI, tick. Very good. When you talk about digital, tick. But if you do not have the human resource, there will be very good bills. We will do what we do as Kenyans. We have very good paperwork, very nice.
Collecting dust.
In fact, we export. Like whatever Rwanda is using to implement the universal health care
is our work.
Is our blueprint.
We need IP.
But they're ahead of us because we never implement.
We need to register these things with IP. Anyway, Peterson, thank you very much for joining us
Thanks
today.
a lot.
Always a pleasure having you and having these conversations with you.
Always an honor.
Peterson Wachira is the national chairman of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. He's been our guest this morning talking about health and the health sector. How's it faring? Is it ill? Is it healthy? As President Ruto marks 1 year in office, that's been the conversation. Keep it here for more. In the next hour, we talk about NGOs. They've been told you must align your work with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Is that going to work? 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua will be attending a conference of coffee producers in Colombia. Gachagua, who left the country earlier today, will use the opportunity to learn more about coffee business and how to reform the sector back home. Colombia is known in the world for the production of coffee and among the top sellers of coffee in the United States, Germany and Belgium, contributing 12% of the coffee produced in the world. Later, Gachagua is expected to travel to Cuba for the G77 conference, where he will represent President William Ruto. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga has urged the national government to allow counties to take charge of the implementation of functions that are being devolved. The opposition leader maintains that the constitution clearly defines functions and projects that each level of government can execute. He says this ought to be done if devolution is to succeed. The former Prime Minister lamented that the national government had allegedly taken projects that are meant for counties, making it difficult for the devolved units to fulfill their constitutional mandate.
Kujenga manyumba ni jukumu la serikali ya chini. Wamekataa na pesa. Matibabu ni jukumu la serikali ya chini. Wamekataa na pesa. Tunasema hiyo. Tulisema kama Azimio tutaleta 35%, 35% ya pesa itakuja chini. Ruto amekataa naye. Semekataa naye.
ODM members in Trans Nzoia County have said that the change in leadership in the party gives a glimmer of hope, especially to emerging politicians. Led by Vincent Mukabwa, the members have called for the appointment of Saboti MP, Kaleba Misi, Governor of Kisii County, Simbarati, Catherine Amayo and Fatuma Masita, saying the appointments give hope to the young people.
Chama imefanya jambo la maana sana kumpatia hiyo nafasi ya deputy organizing secretary. Mheshimiwa Caleb ni kijana chapchap. Tumeona amekuwa mstari wa mbele kutetea chama. When it comes to mambo ya national politics amekuwa mstari wa mbele. Huku mashinani constituency yake tunaona anafanya kazi. Kuna nafasi wampatia Mheshimiwa Simbarati. Hao ni vijana, wakati wanashirikiana tutaona hii chama imesonga mbele sana. Women League, vijana pia tujitokeze kuhakikisha kwamba hii chama yetu iko imara huku mashinani.
Mukabwa congratulated the disciplinary committee of ODM party for starting the process of dealing with rebel MPs.
Viongozi ambao wamechaguliwa lazima wawe waaminifu. Ukiangalia mambo ya Azimio pale bunge, tukawa na numbers kwa governors, tukawa na numbers kwa MCS, but umekuja na ukasumba ile ya kwamba anatudanganya ati ameenda kupata maendeleo. Maendeleo hiyo ni right. Constitution inaongelea mambo ya maendeleo na lazima kama ni constituencies iko na mgawa wao wa CDF. Kama ni mambo ya counties iko na mgawa yao pia. So tumeenda huko kujialai na serikali kwa sababu ya maendeleo. Hiyo unatudanganya.
Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service Felix Koskei has called on political leaders across the political divide to set aside their differences and work together to deliver development to Kenyans. Speaking during a Thanksgiving ceremony at ACK St. James Church, Gede, Kilifi County, Koskei said the government has planned many good things for Kenyans, including new roads, piped water, and more, while noting that significant progress has been in combating substance abuse in the region. Koskei said more concerted efforts are being required from both the levels of government to save scores of young generation from the vice. He also urged Kenyans to be wary of cults and false religions that could lead them to self-harm. Now, Nairobi County has assured city residents that it has put measures in place to mitigate the potential negative effects of the predicted El Nino rains. The county, which has scheduled a briefing today to discuss strategies taken to deal with the phenomena, says the impending unusual rains have raised concerns about potential floods, landslides, and other natural disasters that could hit the city hard. The county has, however, quick to point out that collaboration between the government agencies, local communities, and relevant stakeholders will be crucial in ensuring a successful disaster management plan. And at least 40 people were killed and dozens injured Sunday in airstrikes in the south of Sudan's capital Khartoum. This is according to local activists as the war nears the end of its 5th month. The revised toll means the raid was one of the deadliest single attacks in the war that erupted in April between Army Chief Abdel Fattah el-Burhan and his former deputy Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, who commands the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The committee said more deaths were expected as casualties continue to pour into the nearby Bashair Hospital. The hospital had issued an urgent appeal for all medical professionals in the area to come and treat the increasing number of injured people arriving. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asera. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so we're looking at traffic then coming in on Uhuru Highway, getting through towards the city is going to slow you down just a tad as you're getting into the CBD. This is traffic also coming in from Langata Road. That's heavy. It started off heavy on Magadi Road really early this morning, and then we're seeing a continuation of that as you're heading out towards the CBD. It's going to continue for some time for all that we see. Landis Road is busy. It's coming in from Jogo Road, heavy, and it's getting onto Kamkunji at the roundabout, heading into Ring Road, and then also coming in the other direction towards Haile Selassie. Let's take a look at the Thika Superhighway, which was thick with traffic from very early on. We're looking at Kiambu Road, heavy with traffic. Also looking at Thika Superhighway, well in from Githurai, it's heavy. It's bumper to bumper. Service lanes are looking good. You want to think about using them. But then when you get past the Pangani, rather towards Survey, and then out towards the Pangani underpass, it slows down significantly and movement becomes an issue. Limuru Road is also pretty busy. We're into a very busy Monday morning, folks. Let's see what it looks like shortly. For now, though, you're going to have to stick to it with patience and other things. Let's talk Spice FM KE on X.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room,
coming up
the only way to start your
Good morning
day.
and how are you doing? Welcome to the third hour of The Situation Room, live on Spice FM, on KTN Home, on YouTube and on Facebook on this September 11th, 2023. We are preparing ourselves because we will be running the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in other parts of the country, and globally in October.
Indeed. Are you doing the 5 km? Are you doing the 10 km? Are you doing the 21 or the 42? What is it that you will be involved in? Will you be doing the virtual race this year? Everything concerning that can be registered for on www.nairobimarathon.com. It's a special one this year. It's the 20th edition of Kenya's largest single-day athletics event by name of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. It's the 29th of October where this all will be taking place, and the virtual run takes place a week earlier. Get your name on the leaderboard and see what happens come the 29th. Register for only 2,000 shillings, and remember, all, not some, all proceeds from this go towards the Future Makers program, which makes life a little bit easier, especially for girls and people with disability, helping them to learn, earn, and grow.
Indeed. Okay, so to usher in the next conversation, we have a guest who's joined us in the studio. Joshua Chongwon is the executive director of Krakow. He's in the studio. Good morning, Joshua.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. That's the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you, Eric.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Make yourself comfortable. Unapenda chai?
Napenda chai.
Bas. Chai ya maziwa.
Ya Kenya.
Maziwa mingi. Kenyan tea.
Kenyan tea.
Very good. Now, you know, when you talk about Kenyan tea, there are people who, Kenya will love tea. And then there are people who, you know, like their milk with tea. Others like their tea with milk. I'm sure you're one of those who like their milk.
Certainly.
Unapenda chai ya maziwa. Let me tell you about maziwa called Dairy Best, long life milk. You know about it.
I know it.
Dairy Best is the best. It's creamy, it's long life, long lasting. You don't have to think about refrigeration or nini, nunua box mzima, dozen, weka pale. Mgeni anakuja, unataka chai? Pakiti mzima. Mgeni, same, but welcome.
Thank you so much.
City has the day's proverb. And
Yes.
this week's proverbs are from
Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone.
Yes. Quarrels end, but words once spoken never die.
Quarrels end, but words once spoken never die. What's your interpretation of this, Joshua?
Thank you for that proverb. I want, from my context, to put it this way, that it is easier to struggle for democracy than to sustain it. And I believe that is also part of the conversation around that proverb.
You put the connection, democracy and quarrels,
which never end.
You know, a liberal mind would want to have all, voices heard and people discern the perspectives. But it can be interpreted to be a quarrel. But at the end of it all, there will be an agreement. To sustain the agreement becomes also another conversation altogether. And that is the connection that I'm trying to make here.
Interesting perspective.
It is an interesting perspective. And it's a good perspective too.
Okay. Yes. Joshua, what does CRECO mean?
CRECO in full means Constitution and Reform Education Consortium. It is a network of civil society organizations in our country that championed and struggled for constitutional reform. It's a 25-year-old network of civil society organizations. I head the secretariat in Nairobi.
How many members do you have?
We have currently 22 members spread across the country.
And what do you do now?
And these members focus specifically on human rights, democracy, and governance subjects.
Okay.
And currently, we are engaged in educating Kenyans on the implementation of the Constitution 2010 and trying also to ensure that the provisions of the constitutions are adhered to and complied to by both the implementers, the state, as well as also citizens are owning it and practicing it and ensuring that Article 1 of the Constitution is solely understood by the citizens, which talks about sovereignty belongs to the people and no one is above the law. And that is what we stand for.
So these civil society organizations, how are they registered in Kenya? Are they registered as societies, as NGOs? What are they?
Yeah, NGOs in Kenya have a long history of its, formations. We have multiple registration processes, but the main regulator of NGOs in Kenya that is mandated to ensure that there is compliance and monitoring of its activities is the NGO Coordination Board, which has a number of non-governmental organizations registered under it. We have also entities that are registered as trusts under the Ministry of Lands. We have also those ones that are registered as associations. We have also community-based organizations that are registered at the county levels. And we have even chamas who are not even registered. And there are people who have formed or brought themselves together in villages or maybe in urban centers just for a common goal, probably to pull together resources and run strategic, businesses for the benefit of their community. It could be even probably environmental or doing business to give back to their children, probably facilitating school fees of the needy and all that. So that is a wide range of non-governmental organizations. And most importantly, there are also individuals who don't need registrations. They just come up to defend human rights, and we've seen them in our country. Bold individuals who go to court under public interest litigation, or people even who demonstrate individually and say, I am not happy or I'm not in agreement with certain actions that are happening in our country. It could be environmental, it could be on an accountability issues, or even it could be actions by certain groups, probably who are connected to the state. So that is the range of
what we call, when we talk about NGO, this is what we mean.
That is what we mean. And
so they can be privately funded.
Yes.
Like an individual can decide, I'm going to use my resources to take this action.
Yes.
They can be communally funded.
Yes.
We are contributing together so that we can push this agenda.
Yes.
Or they can also be mobilizing resources externally.
Yes, and
from
Eric,
other people.
And Eric, NGO work doesn't need necessarily mean that it involves money. It's voluntary. people come up and say, I'm fighting this injustice. Let's say, for instance, you see a child who has been beaten up, let's say by a parent. Probably this parent interprets parenting as that I have a right over this child. Probably this parent is even ignorant of the Children's Act. So individuals who safeguard human rights will come to say, look here, there is violation of the law here. This child has a right, and that is what we mean. So it's multi-faceted in terms of the subject. It could be in agriculture, it could be in healthy, it could be, in any other, even mining, or even it could be, protecting aquatic, lives.
So even if we say that, and look, the perception that has been over very many years, even if we say that NGO work in any given country is regulated by the government of the day, it is not operationalized by the government and it is not managed by the government, which is why the non-governmental comes into play. Would that be correct?
Yes, that is correct. It's independent of the state, but that does not mean that they work against the law.
Right, okay.
It's governed by the rule of law. The set rules and regulations, as well as also the laws of the land that are there. But I believe that as we even talk about compliance and adherence to the law, there could be laws that are also repressive. For instance, we have liberal democracy in our country. But if you have a state that would want to promote illiberal democracy, that NGOs now come up to say that is not the law. And you've seen us going to court to challenge some of certain actions and proposals. And even currently, even when you look at the National Dialogue Committee, there are proposals that are put in place and they were inviting people to submit memoranda. NGOs play a forefront role to mobilize citizens in terms of also collecting their views and compile the same and submit.
However, who has carte blanche here in terms of operations when it comes to the things that will be discussed, said, done, administered in the country, whether or not NGOs have been given the right to operate? Who can then come and decide, actually, you know what, this is how you're going to run regardless of what your mandate as an NGO, whether you're internal or external? Who can actually come around and say, this is how you ought to or not operate?
In fact, we don't need someone who can come around to police and sanction us on how to operate, because we have no syllabus.
Sure, but you're dealing within the boundaries of a sovereign state.
Yes, we are dealing within the boundaries of a sovereign under the given set of laws. So it is the interpretation of the law that guides us, not individuals, not people, but authorities and institutions that are put in place. And we know that Parliament is that arm of government through representation that will pass such laws. And it will be in compliance with the law of the land, which is the mother law, which is the Constitution of Kenya.
But do they need to then come and have a conversation with NGOs as entities or as those who are coming to operate in concert, that this is what we have decided to do? Can we have a talk about, can we have a discussion about it? Or can, as you said, an entity, government, come out and say, look, in regard to policy and how we should operate from today moving forward, this is how we are going to do it? Should they be having a conversation with you? Or should they be informing you of future operations?
Consultations and dialogue is absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Because both government and the NGOs exist because of the people of Kenya. Those are the people we serve, both of us, including also the media, including the church or the mosque. All these people are targeting common group, which are the citizens of this country. However, independence and separation of responsibilities needs to be safeguarded. No one dictates the other on how to operate. Even NGOs cannot dictate government, but they can hold the government to account. But using the set laws that are available. These laws that are in place are not government laws. They are laws of the country that also government also uses.
Even the government
NGOs
is
also
bound.
uses. The citizens of this country also uses. And everybody else, including the media. So consultations as you've put in place in terms of agreeing to say that this is the framework that is in place, adherence to it and ownership to it is also one of the principles in terms of promotion of a democracy such as the one that we have in our country.
Joshua, you've talked about holding each other accountable. So the NGOs can hold the government accountable.
Yes.
Using institutions that have been established by law.
Exactly.
Right? The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, the judiciary, and others.
Yes.
That's how you hold the government accountable.
Yes.
Or even petitioning parliament, right?
Yes, or even speaking to the media.
Or speaking to the media.
Yes,
holding the
Kenyans
government
to know what's
accountable.
going on.
How does the government hold the NGO world accountable?
The government holds the NGO world accountable by having NGOs report to the authorities that have been put in place. And I'll give an example.
If I may just pause you first. May I? There is the registration.
Yes, please.
Who do they register with?
They register with the government of Kenya.
Okay.
Which institution?
Yes. Is there a specific institution that deals with the registering of NGOs?
Yes, we have the NGO coordination board.
Okay.
We have trusts.
Yes.
We have the Attorney General's office. We have the county governments at the county level.
But the NGO coordination board has that primary role of ensuring that NGOs comply with the rules and regulations that are enshrined in this country. Is that not so?
That is true,
Yes.
but they will not even target like CBOs, because CBOs are also registered under different framework
Yes.
at the county level.
Yes.
But here is the catch. In 2013, Kenyans, through Parliament, passed what's called the Public Benefits Organizations Act.
Yes.
A law that has existed for 10 years, but has never been operationalized.
Never been operationalized.
Or has never been operationalized.
Meaning?
Has never been implemented, has never been put into life. It is a law that was put in place to have NGOs regulated, have their work self-regulate itself through, let me say, one umbrella of an authority, like the way I've explained it, that we are registered in a different ways.
Yes.
It could be CBOs, it could be associations, it could be company limited by guarantee, it could be non-governmental under the NGO coordination board. So you see that even the NGO coordination board has no role over these CBOs.
Yeah.
You get what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So in 2013, we passed a law as a country. And the different regimes, whether it's 2013, 2017, 2022 regime, they have never implemented. But government attempted to amend it. Imagine amending a law that has never been implemented.
Who's supposed to implement it?
It's the government. Because, at that time...
And they haven't implemented
They have never implemented
What does
it.
implementation entail?
Implementation means putting structures that operationalizes it in place, such as rules, such as regulations that would enable it to be implemented. Because, it's an umbrella law, but it requires structure. Like now, for instance, we are supposed to put in place an office that is going to have all NGOs register afresh. Afresh. That was it. That was the case then. And it was actually called the Federation, where it's composed of representatives of government and non-governmental organizations. So that at least...
So it keeps one register.
Yes, it keeps one register.
All public benefit organizations in the country.
Yes.
Whether
But between
CBOs,
2013...
NGOs,
yes,
whatever.
Exactly, Eric. But between 2013 2015, the government attempted to amend it. But the amendments which were proposed were suspect. And NGOs protested and successfully even managed to challenge that in court. And that was shelved. In fact, we were moved from the Ministry of Devolution then, and we were put in the Ministry of Interior and Security. And we ask ourselves, are NGOs a security threat in this country? Is it a security apparatus of this country?
Interior and coordination.
In fact, the right place that NGOs need to be put is planning and development. Because, we contribute largely into the development and planning of this country, whether it's through policy engagement and all that. But being put under the Ministry of Interior and Security, for me, I think, is lack of political goodwill.
It's trying to rein in. We are talking about this in the context of something that happened on Friday. There was a press release issued by the Principal Secretary for Internal Security and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Omolo, and I'm going to read the press release. He says, following a review of the operations of the non-governmental organizations and public benefits organizations registered in Kenya, the government has noted with concern the prevailing misalignment of international donor and management systems. This model sadly leans more towards meeting the interests of donor countries than supporting Kenya's national development agenda and priority needs. This is not only ineffective but also impairs the ownership of development plans for Kenya as the host country. Further, it has the potential of weakening our capacity to accurately monitor and manage donor aid management in the best interest of our national security. The government recognizes the critical role donors' aid plays in our socio-economic development, but for purposes of mutual accountability between the host country and its development partners, the aid architecture must comply with the global best practices and the established regulatory frameworks. In light of the above, the government has formally written a notice to all NGOs and PBOs in the country to comply with this requirement and align their operations with Kenya's development priorities captured in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. This will guarantee greater partnership and synergies among different parties working in the aid industry to ensure that donor aid is not only producing better impact for Kenya, but also benefits local communities. Our prime focus is on optimizing the value of all projects and programs funded through international aid to ensure they complement our development plan outlined in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Finally, the government is progressively heightening its capacity for surveillance against illicit financial flows as one of the strategic interventions to disrupt criminal and terror financing activities. So first of all, ask Greco, did you receive this communication? Because it says they have written to all NGOs and PBOs operating in the country and told them, guys, you go bottom up. Nyinyi, angalia bottom up.
We haven't received that communication. Neither of our members received that communication. We just saw it in social media, but we believe that is just an empty threat.
What do you understand? What do you understand the government to be saying here?
It has happened before in this country, before the 2022 general elections. There was a note verbal that was written to all donors in this country that funding of programs on observation of elections, whether it is before, during, and after, would need to have an approval from government. We challenged the same, and we called the government, the then government, to order that was not in line to that. And you know, when I look at that, Latiff, I mean, it's mischievous. Let me just use that word.
Why?
You know why? In page 61 of the plan, which is by the Kenya Kwanza. And I have it here. The government, promised to strengthen, accountability and leadership, and part of their promise in this plan, and I'm going to read it, is in the strengthening leadership and accountability and depersonalizing our politics. In fact, that is personalizing politics.
Oh, boy.
Because we have a liberal democracy. It is not illiberal in the sense that the Kenya Kwanza government promised to implement the Public Benefits Organizations Act immediately they come into power. It is in their manifesto.
And 1 year has gone by. Have they implemented it?
They have not even entertained any conversation around its implementation. So, and we are telling Kenyans that communication from the PS is suspect. And even the use of, we are entities that illicit finances are transmitted through NGOs. If I can explain to you, I am a head of an institution, a non-governmental organization. Getting funding from donors is not a joke. The level of procurement in terms of call for proposals, writing all those things, and the bidding. By the time you access that money, you will have gone through checks and balances. And remember, Latiff, these are not just money that is idling somewhere, probably in the US or in Europe. These are also taxpayers' money that is also approved by parliaments of those countries that channel resources to help needy populations in developing countries.
But that is just part. Like you said, NGOs can be funded by governments, by individuals, by societies, by groups.
Yes, but you see
For
that
yours, because you're applying to an entity that is public funded, you have all those rigorous ways. Who's to tell that another one is not funded by an individual who says, "Wanataka nini? Shika."
Yeah, but you see, that communication there is in violation of the spirit of this government. Where are the majority of hustlers found? Is it not in the NGO world? Who are the members of Chamas? Who are the members of CBOs? Are they not hustlers? Who are even organizing themselves to access what is called the hustler fund? Are they not people who are organized groups that this communication is targeting? So this is let me call it it's ironical in the sense of communicating, and it's not the first time to hear this. We used to have somebody who was heading the National NGO Coordination Board. I don't want to name
Why don't you just mention
he used to threaten us through letters that he was posting in social media, and we used not to receive the letters.
Are you referring to Mr. Fazul?
I think you mentioned that. And
I am mentioning
public
because he headed that organization.
So we saw that, and the target was critical NGOs that were dealing with subjects that were not friendly, including calling government on extrajudicial killings, including calling government out of order on, you remember this thing that was going on in the Indian Ocean, ransoms. Pirates, yes. And you know, that was also part of the transmission of the illicit funds. And you know, they, like for instance, Muri and the Haki Africa and the Kenya Human Rights Commission have programs around tracking illicit funding. And those culprits who were also trafficking that money are not from the NGO world. They are the ones who exposed to that. These are powerful individuals who are in government. These are powerful individuals who are also associated with politicians. And they are known. Though I don't want to mention names here, but what happened in that case when they came out strongly to say that we have the facts here through investigations, in the process of exposing them, they were clamped. And if you remember, those offices and even their bank accounts were closed.
800 NGOs were deregistered.
At that time.
800, yes, at that time.
And the deregistration, my brother, was not informed only just because of those actions. Either probably they have not been
others have not been
reconciling their returns to the NGO coordination.
Reasons were given.
Let's take a break. 27 minutes to 9. We'll be back shortly. We want to understand, okay, of course, the NGOs reacted this way. I expected the NGOs to react this way. But then why are the NGOs reacting this way? What is so hard about saying, let's align our programs?
Because
we'll discuss this after you
that
come
is
back from this
not
break.
the message.
That's not the message that the NGOs are reading from this?
No.
Because they choose not to read from this? Or
No,
because
because
that's not the
we
message?
know that is not the message.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll be back shortly. Good morning. We are hosting Joshua Chamwoni. He is the Executive Director of CRECO. CRECO again in full, Joshua?
Constitution and Reform Education Consortium.
There you go. Back shortly. Good morning.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Nairobi, chance of rain later on with highs of 28 and lows of 17 today. All right, looking into Nyeri, rains and sunny intervals at highs of 25 and lows of 15. Nakuru will see highs of 25 and lows of 14. With sunny intervals through today. Looking into Eldoret, we'll see highs of 22 and lows of 12, with a chance of rain and sunshine throughout Monday. Mombasa, partly sunny, going to highs of 30 and lows of 23. And we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 24 in a sunny Malindi. Kisumu through today will see highs of 28 and lows of 19 and sunny through most of Monday. And Kakamega throughout Monday will see highs of 29 and lows of 17. Kampala today is cloudy, highs of 28, and Dar es Salaam will see highs of 29. We'll see highs of 22 in Johannesburg, and Lagos will see highs of 29. A cloudy Kinshasa will see highs of 30.
Spice up your life.
Monday morning, we're seeing traffic in different parts of the city today. Coming off Thika Superhighway, it's still heavy. It's bumper to bumper all the way through and through to the CBD. Going towards that Pangani underpass looks like a nightmare for a lot of folks today, and moving very slowly, even after you use the service lanes to come out there. All right, traffic is then going through towards Wangari Maathai, where you're going to get towards Muranga Road. That continues. Gong Road is busy this morning. We're looking at heavy traffic on Jogo Road going out towards Landis and then touching on Kamkunji. It's been heavy on Magadi Road today, spilling over towards Langata Road and then into the CBD. Everywhere you look this morning, you will find it. Let's try to keep safe regardless of what it is. Let us know if you find a good route today with where folks can escape to. Spice FM KE on X.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Conversation continues with Joshua Changoni from Kreko City. This communication from the Principal Secretary for Interior and Administration is basically saying would like the NGOs that are financed through international aid agencies to also coordinate their programming with the government agenda and the government programs for purposes of ownership. So that as you're finishing your project, it's a 5-year project, thereafter who takes it up? If we did not know about it when we were doing it, how shall we come and take it? If it's about co-ownership of them. And you say that is the message that's being written, but that's not the message that's being interpreted from this.
Because when you read that statement, essentially, I interpret it as saying that which he's saying is not happening. It is suggesting that these NGOs exist outside and function and practice or ply their trade outside
of the alignment of government.
Yes, exactly. And that is not true. That is not true, because the work that the NGOs do, you think of any NGO, you will need to show me an NGO whose work is misaligned for this statement to make sense.
Let's open it up a little bit and say, okay, yes, fine. If we're looking at a development agenda by the Kenya Kwanza government today, essentially, if we can say broadly, what they're saying is, for any NGO in operation in the country today, we would like you to kind of align yourself and make sure that you are essentially in line with the development agenda of the Kenya Kwanza government. So far?
Yep.
Right. What you're saying, CT, and maybe Joshua to some extent, is that there are no NGOs in the country today who are operating outside of those parameters. Whether you've come into the country to make sure that water is available, that is plugged in directly to Kenya Kwanza. Whether you've come to make sure that young girls can go to school, that's plugged in directly to the agenda. Whether you are working in the country to make sure that finances, that's, little is available to people in terms of micro grants to then be able to do business. That is right in line with
the agenda.
Kenya Kwanza bottom-up agenda. So what you're saying, Joshua, is that that's what we're doing anyway.
Yes.
So and I want to argue that maybe not.
And so what they're saying here, from what I understand, is in as much as they have a general understanding that NGOs generally are coming to work as a complementary service to government, they also have the understanding that there are those who have come in and who are operating, who are working outside, who are coloring outside of the lines. And this communique is to let you know that should you be doing that, what we want to do is to bring you inside the lines.
I don't read it that way. I actually read it this way. Now, there are NGOs that are working in the country. Yes. You're working in communities. Yes. You're pushing development agenda. Yes. Okay. But when the government is working on this and you're working on this, you are basically doing double work.
But Joshua is saying it's not possible for you to come in as an NGO and work outside of those lines.
Not outside of the lines. You're working within the law, but you're implementing a project, and yet the government is also in the same area implementing the same project. And we've talked about this here many times. Where you find in a community, there are 4 different
water projects
happening at the same time. Somebody is digging water ponds, somebody else is seeking boreholes, somebody else is creating
irrigation
areas and all. If all of you coordinated and worked together and seen how can we synergize, would actually benefit this community better. But you find how many billions of dollars of donor money has been spent in this country. And if you look at it, can you account for it and say, this went here, it is still operational. This went here, it is still operational. I would argue that there is a lot of money that has been spent here in this country by donor agencies, international aid that's coming, that today we can't follow up on. And I think it's just about how do we coordinate and say, we are working in Kitui. In Kitui, those who are working in health, please come and find out what we are doing in Kitui on health. Those who are working on agriculture, please come and find out what is the government, national government and the Kitui County government doing on water in Kitui. What are we doing on agriculture, and so on and so forth?
Do you know?
Coordinate.
Do you know why I have taken the position I've taken? Usually, when NGOs come into the country are working, believe me, that's what they do. They don't work independent of government institutions. They don't start their own standalone outfit to do what they want to do. Usually they'll partner with the parent ministry, the parent department, that's what they do. Whether even at the county level, that is what they do. They actually work with the existing. And it is those entities that tell them, this is where we need help. This is where we'd like you to work with us. This is what we'd like you to do to help us do. Now,
on paper, yes.
No. In practice,
not all NGOs in this country will say that they started a project because there was an MOU signed with the local administration, the local county, and this is what they did. Otherwise, you'd not find. Right now, it's about tree planting. How many NGOs are involved in tree planting in this country?
I have no idea.
Are all of them working with the organization of the Ministry of Environment and at county level?
But Eric,
if you go to a certain area and you find
to ensure that these NGOs are aligned,
you go. Hence the memo.
No, that memo is a blanket statement, and that is why I'm not giving it breathing space.
Let me ask. Joshua mentioned something earlier, and one of the things that you said, Joshua, is that you see this as a threat, right? Why would government threaten anybody for whom you've already established that there must be a working relationship? These entities would not be in Kenya, whether they're internal or external, would not be in Kenya having not been granted the provisionary status to operate, right? Why would then government threaten them? I mean, you don't wake up one Monday morning and decided, or Friday in this case, why would I just make a threat to these folks if I didn't smell a rat somewhere?
Yeah, let me make the following clarifications first. That NGOs are not part of Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. But NGOs would want to be part of the Vision 2030 because that brings everybody in our country. Because that is the national agenda, development agenda of the country. The way NGOs would want to align themselves to different programs that will enable the achievement of Vision 2030 is the same way Kenya Kwanza, or let's say the opposition party aligns wherever itself. So we see it as a threat, as if they want us to force us to get us forced into their agenda, because we are not part of it. We are not part of it. we are not part of it in the sense that this is what they used to secure votes from the people of Kenya. We had also other parties who also sold their agendas. So if at the moment we subscribe to one entity, that is a threat to democracy in this country and the values that we stand for of liberal democracy. Then secondly, government is also a recipient of NGO, of donor money. It is not that they don't get money to complement their efforts on healthy issues. Equally also to NGOs. In fact, the larger percentage of donor money is directed to government departments than even NGOs. And there are facts to that effect. If you look at the National NGO Coordination Board report on what NGOs got in the financial year 2021-2022, it's just, a small amount of resources. So why talk to the funders when they were admitted into the country either through their foreign missions to operationalize their activities and foster international relations?
Yeah.
Because we have other global agendas such as the SDGs. NGOs subscribe to that.
Yeah.
Because we know that is linking Kenya to the community of nations. We just had the African Climate Summit here in Nairobi. I've come from Elgeyo Marakwet over the weekend planting trees under Lengoletu initiative, CBO. It's not government. We were not even funded by a donor, but it's just a group of young professionals who went to primary schools to educate children on how to plant a tree. It was covered by the media. So is that what government wants also to regulate through this communication that has come here in place?
Joshua, they are not regulating.
Would government not interpret that as a contribution to the 15 billion agenda that has been mentioned by them? Do we need emphasis to say that it is black and white that NGOs must subscribe to the bottom-up agenda?
Joshua, why are you taking it to the very extreme and seeing only the negative? Just look at it this way. This model that they said, we have reviewed the model the NGOs and PBOs are doing. The Kenya government has noted with concern the prevailing misalignment of international donor aid management systems. The model leans more towards meeting the interests of the donor countries than supporting our own agenda. And this is what we are saying. Now, listen, as a country, for the next 5 years, the administration is moving this way, okay? When the administration comes and says we're moving this way, the previous administration had said Big Four. This one is saying bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is still the Big Four, if you just look at it, right? The main agenda. If this is what we are saying, and we are putting 3.6 trillion shillings of our annual budget towards this kind of programs, how about your 3.6 trillion shilling of international aid also coming in and seeing how can we work together? We're talking about planting trees. There are very many NGOs in this country, not only in this Ruto administration, even before, who've been in this journey of planting trees. Planting trees, not growing trees. Some of them have been on growing trees, others have been on planting trees, and you write your reports to your donors and say, we planted 10,000 trees in this and other area. But in terms of those trees surviving, they don't survive. Now, if the focus of the government is how do we grow trees, not just plant trees, you come in and support us in nurseries. Another aid agency comes and supports us in distribution of the seedlings. Another one comes and supports us in growing those trees. What's wrong with that, Joshua?
Let me ask you, Eric.
Ask me.
When you read this letter,
yes,
are there fundamental disclosures that needs to happen? For instance, where is the review report? Because they say we've reviewed, we've wherever, something like that. Has that been disclosed to the public? If they are talking about illicit finances, transmissions, is there a report from government? Because we know a report from government would be more authoritative and say, look here, this is what we found. We engaged in this for the past 1 year that we've been in power. These are our findings, hence these recommendations. But you see, this is just a generic letter. It's just an improved version of the note verbal that went to donors before the elections. And how I'm reading this, it is a characteristic of a communication that is not comfortable from liberal democracy. Because NGOs have come out very strongly. Let's say, for instance, when the opposition went for maandamano.
Yes.
During the last 3 months or so, and they raised the issues, and one of it was cost of living.
Yes.
There are things that probably NGOs also found it legitimate to also foster, such as high cost of living, which was really biting, and is still biting for that matter.
Yes.
Issues around having transparent elections and having also harmony in the country.
Yes.
Because people are dying.
Yes.
And even raising issues around deaths that were caused during that maandamano. And NGO, if you remember what was coming from the Inspector General of Police to say that, we need to get permission from him. So, is Article 37 of the Constitution the Inspector General of Police of this country? So we came out strongly to say that is not what the Constitution, and I was one of them who say that Article 37 of the Constitution talks about peaceful picketing.
Yes.
The killings that we saw in Nyalenda, or let's say, for instance, in Kibra and the streets of Nairobi, was not necessarily a definition of what was called mass demonstration, because it doesn't need to involve the destruction of property and killing of innocent people, or even using live bullets and even harmful tear gas.
Yeah.
So assume we were in bed with Kenya Kwanza. Would we speak like that? And that is what these communications want to make us also to. Yes, it wants us to bend.
Apana. Let me ask you. Do you think the government actually wants to block international aid from coming into the country? Because that's what it sounds like. That's what you're saying.
No.
Would the government be saying, would not want international aid to come to the country?
No, they want to control it.
They want to control it.
They want to control how international aid comes to the country.
No, yes, and they want to control how, even if you look at what happened.
But you've already said, City, many of these, especially the state-funded NGOs, those ones that get money from citizens of other countries, already align their programs with the government.
No, let me
various levels.
I've read the plan.
USAID, FCDO, and others, they align.
Yes, they do.
I've read the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, which they call it a plan.
Mm-hmm.
When you read it, it's so admirable. I wish they implemented the way they presented it to Kenyans when they were seeking for votes. They used the human rights language, so attractive, even NGO language for that matter, but the practice is opposite. Including this letter from the PS Interior. So we should not even entertain conversations around this letter. We just need to call it out of order and say this is not.
Okay,
this is not part of liberal democracy.
Joshua,
it is illiberal.
Joshua, allow me to ask this question in a different manner.
Yes.
What do you think then, not saying that it's a threat, what do you think then is behind this communication? Let's put it that way. What is behind this communication then? Because we also know that it is difficult then to speak in absolutes. It cannot be that every single NGO in the country, external again or internal, is behaving in the same way. Cannot be.
Politically, when you interpret
so
this,
what's behind
when
this?
you interpret this politically, and let me now do political interpretation. As somebody who has been in governance for more than 18 years, this is a way of undermining NGOs that have been stable in this country to speak truth to power. And we are aware that there are comfortable NGOs that get express support from government, and probably resources will be channeled to those ones if we allow this control to take place. And there will be government-owned NGOs. That is a fact. And you will see what has happened to the NGO Council, which is now domiciled in Nyeri House, and having it to sit in the NGO Coordination Board as a member. So those are things that we are aware that has been happening. It's only that it's a matter of time that now these things are trying to do it, to come out. Then the last bit is this. If you interpret it politically, this is a resource allocation question. Have the international community know that this is the express wishes of the government of the day. And remember, we have about 54 countries in Africa, and Kenya is at the middle level. I mean, we were declared by the former regime, which is not true actually. It was also one way of curtailing funding. And you see, there was a shift of donor aid that would come to benefit the people of Kenya, and it went to...
When it became a middle income...
It went to other countries.
We are not a middle income country.
We are not.
We've never been.
That's a joke. We've never been. So it is in the same spirit. It's just a continuation
so it is removing funds from NGOs.
Exactly, that is the fact.
There are those who will argue, Joshua.
And then they will have those who are sympathetic of the regime receive this money. And we are saying that is a big no.
There are those who would argue, Joshua, that, the NGO community in this country does not want a light shone on them. You do not want accountability. And that's why we're asking you, so how does the government, how do we as citizens hold NGOs accountable? We can hold our government accountable. You're receiving money in this country, operating in this country. How do we hold you accountable? The fact that you have not been as vocal for the implementation of the PBO Act raises questions.
No, we've been vocal. And we are on the record. We've even gone to court.
How many court cases are there?
We have even we had a court case which was challenging the amendments, if you remember.
That was an amendment.
That was an amendment. Mm-hmm. When this manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza came, and they succeeded to secure power, we thought it was going to be implemented. It's just 1 year down the line. 4 years remaining. Do we expect anything to happen?
We have seen conversations. The education
will.
Sector has been very strong on CBC. We had a clinical officer in front of us. They have been very vocal on the issue of the universal health coverage and the welfare of healthcare sector in the country. NGOs have been very quiet on this particular
No, we haven't been quiet,
Eric,
and this is not to dispute your observation. We are on record, and I can even issue you with the press releases that we've given out, and even the meetings that we've had with the NGOs.
How many demos have you had? How many times have you written to the office, even to the PS, Raymond Molo, and said, we want, instead of telling us all these things about funding, implement PBO Act?
Actually, we are on record having had a conversation with the NGO Coordination Board. Actually, we've had 4 meetings this year. And the idea was to have dialogue and consultations with the Ministry of Interior, the parent ministry where we are under, to have some of these laws also operationalized. And that is a fact. And my colleagues in the sector can bear witness because I was part of that meeting. The agenda is to have a complementary effort or symbiotic effort between NGOs and government in a way that we are also serving the citizens of this country in a better way than being radical. And of course, the journey of...
It's been 10 years of a law that has not been
implemented. And the journey of NGOs in this country has transformed. How NGOs behaved during the Moi regime is not necessarily maybe during the Uhuru regime and even now. But we are seeing a situation there where by now we are most likely to go to the Moi era.
Because they're touching your money now.
What do you anticipate will come out of this? Out of this communique, what will happen as a result of that?
There will be a battle between the Kenya Kwanza government and the NGOs over interpretation of such kind of communication.
It's lived experience. This is what I'm joining that conversation that we are reacting to, because there is need for coordination. There's no doubt about it. There is need for oversight. There's no doubt about it, because in the absence of oversight, the very thing that Eric is saying is what will happen. However, lived experience is that is not all. There's always something else beyond what seems clear that we need oversight. There's always more. That is the problem.
Yes, there's always more. There's a lot of money that's coming into this country, going into communities waking up and working on this particular project.
And Eric,
project comes to an end after 4 years.
Let me tell you.
These people walikuja hapa wakatujengea hii wakaenda. We have no idea what happens to it.
Eric, let me tell you.
Coordination,
let me tell you, Eric.
Yeah. In 20 seconds.
There is now the monster, which is called disinformation and misinformation.
And this is it.
We were called evil society, busybodies, people who thrive on donor money, which was false. And that was propagated by the state. So we urge Kenya Kwanza government to be in consultation and dialogue with the NGOs for the harmony and serving the people of Kenya in a way that everybody benefits and also understands each other.
Bottom line, Raymond Molo says that he has communicated with NGOs. You say you have not received this, and your colleagues have also not received this.
We haven't.
So Raymond Molo, please communicate with the NGOs, engage with them. Thank you very much for joining us, Joshua. Joshua Changoni is the Executive Director of CRECO. He's been our guest this morning. Keep it here for more conversations. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto will officially launch the CSD at the Central Bank of Kenya in Nairobi today. The CSD, a web platform and a mobile app, will allow retail investors in Kenya and abroad to invest in government securities in an easy and convenient manner. The National Dialogue Committee is scheduled to start talks today at the Bomas of Kenya. The team is expected to table a raft of proposals that have been harmonized out of submissions from both camps. These as opposition and the government continue to make statements that threaten the talks. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has accused the committee of including REBC as the first agenda in the negotiations, insisting that the election was completed and the constitution does not allow the review of the election results. However, speaking in Kisii, opposition leaders Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka have asked the government to pay attention to the talks, saying that they do not want to waste time. On his part, Kalonzo, who leads Azimio in the talks, has expressed hope that an agreement will be arrived at, especially regarding the Electoral Commission IEBC. Now, Medical Services Principal Secretary Hari Kimutai is scheduled to open a stakeholder engagement forum on the 4 health bills recently approved by the cabinet. The 4 bills seek to underpin the provision of primary health care, which is a key driver of universal health care. The proposed laws under consideration are the Primary Health Care Bill, Social Health Insurance Bill, Digital Health Bill, and Facility Improvement Financing Bill. And Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha has appealed to mothers from Migori County to register for Linda Mama program, whose aim is to ensure pregnant women and infants have access to quality and affordable health services. Speaking in Uriri constituency, Nakhumicha disclosed that the government has already set aside resources towards successful implementation of the scheme. According to the Linda Mama Implementation Manual 2016, the program was introduced to improve efficiency and enable women to access an expanded package of benefits, including antenatal care, deliveries, and postnatal care for the newborn for 1 year, as well as enhanced access, equity, affordability, and quality of service. And Kakamega Deputy Governor Ayub Savula will be back in court today as the hearing of a case in which he is charged with theft of 122 million shillings from the government advertising agency resumes. Savula is charged alongside former ICT PS Sami Itamere for stealing the cash that was meant for paying pending bills to advertisers. Police in Nyeri are investigating claims by a man who surrendered to authorities, claiming he killed his employer aged 70 in 2019. The murder of Stephen Ngari on October 12, 2019 in Kimahuri area remained unsolved. On September 6, the suspect, who was the deceased employee, walked to Naromoru police station and told police he killed Ngari. The suspect alleged he was employed by the deceased, and upon his termination on October 11, 2019, he decided to kill his employer. He told police he sold the cabbages that were on the farm of the deceased man before fleeing the area. Police discovered the body a day after the incident, and the matter has been pending investigations. The suspect was detained ahead of his arraignment. A man suspected to have been part of a group of individuals who abducted a 9-year-old boy in Donholm, Nairobi, has been apprehended. Besides the arrest, Directorate of Criminal Investigations announced officers were also successful in the hunt of the abducted grade 3 pupil who has since been rescued. According to DCI, the boy's teachers were part of the abduction and were demanding 10 million shillings as ransom. Police disclosed that the boy was immediately taken to hospital for medical checks as the operation continued. It is said the boy's father had gone to fetch him from school when he found him missing, only to be informed that one of his teachers had left the school in the company of the minor. A motorcycle, mobile phone, and other items believed to have been used in the commission of the Heartless Act were recovered and kept as exhibits as the operation continues to bring the other suspects to book. Nairobi County has assured city residents that it has put measures in place to mitigate the potential negative effects of the predicted El Nino rains. The county, which has scheduled a briefing today to disclose strategies taken to deal with pneumonia phenomena, says the impending unusual rains have raised concerns about potential floods, landslides, and other natural disasters that could hit the city hard. The county was, however, quick to point out that collaboration between government agencies, local communities, and relevant stakeholders will be crucial in ensuring a successful disaster management plan. Now, at least 40 people were killed and dozens injured in airstrikes in South Sudan's capital Khartoum, according to local activists as the war nears the end of its 5th month. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseda. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Cloudy skies at some point somehow affects what happens on the roads. With a bit of a drizzle that's happening in Nairobi, we'll likely see that traffic's going to come to a standstill. Kiambu Road is quite messy right about now. I don't know how many lanes we're at, trying to get into the city via Muthaiga Square. Also coming off Thika Superhighway, that's been heavy. Coming through Survey, you're going to have to go into that single lane after the service lanes, using that to get into the city. Coming off Jogo Road, going towards Landis, out towards Kamkunji, that has been busy all morning, and we're seeing movement on Gong Road, which slows down as you're getting to the city mortuary roundabout. And Langata Road also been busy, giving from Magadi Road, and also looking at the southern bypass. That will help you out, but then you're going to slow down some as you get to the junction going towards Langata Road. Okay, it's a busy morning generally. Let's see what Monday turns out to be, but we should be getting out of traffic hour soon enough, but it still seems pretty busy. Spice FM KE on X. Let's try to keep things moving this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's drizzling in some parts, cloudy, doing the thing.
It's very cold.
And then top it off, it's cold.
It's just baridi.
It's very cold.
It's just baridi in Nairobi.
It looks like it's going to get even colder.
It's the weather for tea.
That guy is coming.
Which guy?
El Nino.
Oh, that one. El Diablo.
El Diablo, the Nino, rather.
He's coming. It's the weather for chai. Yeah? Chai bora ikona dairy best. Kabisa. So as you're thinking of having, do you how many cups of tea, do you how many flasks of tea as a Kenyan today? Also remember, Dairy Bests. Dairy Best is long life, fresh, and also it has cream.
It's creamy?
Yeah. Unatia chai pale kwenye maziwa. Sio maziwa kwenye chai. Ni chai kwenye maziwa.
Got it.
Unaenjoy maziwa yako vizuri kabisa.
I got you.
Yeah. But this weather, by the way, it's only very, very cold here. I was in Kimana over the weekend. My friend.
It's hot.
It is hot, windy, and dusty.
Oh dear. Hakuna rain?
What is that?
Okay, thank you.
What is that?
Kajiado South, the entirety of Kajiado South into Kajiado Central and Kajiado East. Drop of rain. Forget it. Makueni, the lower Makueni as well. Achana na mvua ni wapi. Hapa Makueni in some areas, some showers have reached. Manyonyo. Tunangoja manyonyo. City?
Yes, please.
The days Sierra Leone.
Yes, quarrels end, but words once spoken never die.
Quarrels end, but words once spoken never die. Hold your tongue when you're quarreling with someone.
True.
Use your eyes.
Careful. Take the road less traveled. That's of humility.
Maliza hapo tu. Finished.
Wacha nikuache. Wacha nikuache. Please. Please. Tuache hiyo story. Please. When someone tells you please tuache, just wacha.
You wacha.
Because if you push,
Then kitakachotokea.
You will never forget the words that will come out of them. Next. Be very careful. Completely careful. Higher. Look, we are celebrating 1 year. On Wednesday, the 13th of September, it will be 1 year since William Ruto did this. Kuwekelea Biblia chini. And Rigiji did his Rigiji thing at Kasarani.
And the Bible has remained down.
Bible has remained down.
It was put down.
Remember Rigiji's thing. Where was he? He is being told to say this, and him is just saying his own things.
He couldn't. The moment was a bit too surreal.
That was just.
But it can be. It can be.
Imagine here you are. They're making the reins of power.
You are catapulted from being just a mwananchi mtukufu mheshimiwa MP. The next moment you're the vice president. Sorry, you're the deputy. You're the deputy president of the entire country. No, that thing, you know it. Like, but then you are the moment, and it's there. Nah, that thing can mix up your signal.
And here you are. You've come in, and these are foreign dignitaries, presidents, and all. I mean,
looking at you.
They're all looking at you, and here is a whole crowd. You're in a stadium. This is many people, and you are the one. Everybody is quiet. It's only you, and you can hear yourself in those loudspeakers.
Regarding.
In fact, why is that guy sounding like me?
Gashagwa.
And then Amadi says, do swear. Swear.
Who's swearing? No.
If you do a number on you, that's for sure.
It's a big thing.
It's massive. There's. I don't think if you haven't been through that experience, you can actually fathom what it's about. You can think you do, but you actually don't. And so when the changes come about and you find people changing, just take a pause.
Many can argue that even up to this point, 1 year later, you're still doing a number.
Yes, exactly. You just take a pause because you don't know what physical and metaphysical changes this particular person went through once they're set in this position.
It's a complete thing. But then there's a conversation I'd like to raise. And this is looking into our 60 years of independence so far, and looking into the future, right? So after independence, there's this group of leaders, some old, Jaramogi and Mzee, and then others who are young, Kina Tomboya, Kina Kibaki, and the young guys who came into government and they became the leaders of the state.
And they were in their 30s, man.
And they were young people.
Yes.
And there were the new leaders who are now taking over from this Mkoloni and holding the reins of government, and their responsibility is to deliver the dream of the freedom fighters into this new era of Kenya as an independent state, and all eyes are on them. And then they held that job for a while. You know, you can look at them, even Daniel Arap Moi was among them.
Yes.
That era came, Mzee and the older ones started dying off. We came into the multi-party era. We came into the Kibaki era. And when Kibaki was living in 2013, we can say that he and the other independent people basically just left.
We got a generational change.
A complete generational change after 2013. Mwai Kibaki left. He had brought in people who had worked with him in the 60s and 70s in government. They had worked together. They had delivered. And those ones left in 2013.
Yes, they did.
Those who had now risen in the late 70s, early 80s, into the 90s are the ones who were left with the reins of power. You could argue. So Raila Odinga and the others who are the younger Turks in the early 80s, the CJ Emeritus and the others, and Kina Kivuda Kibwana, were now the ones who were taking over. And then the younger ones, Kina William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta, who had gotten into positions of leadership in the 90s, were in office. Kina Kalonzo Musyoka of the 80s were there. Kina Musalia Mudavadi of the late 80s and early 90s were there. You know, these are the ones who now came up and have been leading the country. We are still with this generation, or the people who dropped their milk teeth and got their wisdom teeth in the 80s, 90s, into the early 2000s. These guys, in the next 10 years, 2032 or so, they'll be exiting the stage. And that's for sure. The Raila Odingas, the Kalonzo Musyokas, the Mudavadis, Ruto, Uhuru, these guys will be exiting the stage, at least taking a back seat in national politics in 2032. In a short 9 years' time, only one election stands between now and then, 2027. In 2032, we will be looking into our ballots and actually thinking who are taking over the reins of this country, taking it forward at national level. We need to start thinking about that now in terms of who are these leaders. Can we identify them now and start seeing these are the kind of leaders who will be the statesmen and women who will take this country forward? When these ones, Kina Charity Ngilu, Kina Martha Karua, start taking a backseat and exiting the stage in 2032, what happens next? Who do we see taking the reins of the country? What have we seen from those two generations that have been there? The current generation has understood a certain language. The first generation was not actually the guys who were in the bush. These were the guys who were in the offices and going to Lancaster and all. And so their language and all was different. Not like the fighters of the Mau Mau and the others who were in the bush. Theirs was different, it was engaging. These current leaders, theirs is a bit different. It was push, clamor for second liberation. So it's a language of, mandamano and pushing and getting things done by the loudest voices possible and, action. The next leaders, what are they going to be based on?
It's very interesting you should bring this up, Eric, because when there are things you can predict, and this is the one field where I am very hesitant to predict. And for the very reason that there are those who will appear to be at the forefront, and you'll think these people represent the next generation. But between the thinking and the actualization, a lot happens. And a lot of it has to do with what it is that is perceived to be the fundamental needs of the country. And the leaders who will present themselves and position themselves as people who are leading that charge of representing what the needs of that country at that point will be. If we have a country, by say even the next general election, where this UHC matter is resolved, there is piped water in almost every home. There's solar, all these things they keep talking about. Even when it is a Maram road, it is not only passable, it's a beautiful road. When all these things seem not to be an issue, there are schools around every corner, there are teachers. The sort of leader who will be required will not be the leader who's telling us you're going to build roads because we will have roads.
Yeah.
They will not be telling us they're going to get us employment because the opportunity for employment will have been there. They'll have understood whatever matrix you need to ensure that employment doesn't mean you get a job. It means you do something, etc., whatever it will be. But what is easy to predict, though, is if I look at the trajectory of the thinking of this current crop of leaders, they have learned the rhetoric of what it is that you need to say to people, but they've also acquired the worst possible traits of past leaders whose main cause seem to have been to plunder the nation as much as you possibly can. So that combination brings a dichotomy. So these younger people who you're talking about are busy watching this and studying. What do you think this dichotomy does to their thinking and to the building of their ethos as to what it is they can be as leaders? What do you pick up and what do you leave? Because behind all this, there seems to be the consistent narrative of impunity, that you can get away with stuff. Okay? So, if we're seeing it now, and these people have remnants of the previous generations where there was a modicum of control and balance, the next generation will have no such qualms. They will have no such barriers. So, what do you think they're going to do? And how do you think they're going to lead?
Especially because they're taking their lessons from this current.
Oh, they're taking it every single day. Every single day they're taking it. And they're absorbing and saying, okay, we see. They'll push some aside, but essentially, right now, they are very clear about what they think is important. It's even cynical. When people look at this concept of people lining up to receive 200 bob in an election, it seems bizarre, it isn't. It's like people gave up on anything that could be done. So you've come to a point where you say, let me just receive mine up front, okay? And then you go and do what I know you're going to do anyway. Because the things you say you're going to do, you will not do.
You will not do anyway.
Yes. And yet, that is actually not true. A lot actually gets done. Even with all the nonsense we talk about and we see, a lot gets done. It's sad, but it's not just talked about enough. In all honesty, a lot gets done. But for me, a
lot more could get done.
Not
a lot gets done.
Infinitely more.
What's a percentage of what potentially could be done is getting done?
Precisely. You see, I don't even know the percentage. But what I do know is that when something is done, I now see that more could have been done, but it isn't. If absolutely nothing was done, then I'd say, here nothing gets done. But that's not true.
Not true.
Things actually do get done. And so you ask the question cynically again, is it so that we can get the impression that this little is good enough? So that we are content with mediocrity. We are content with as little as possible. This one, the glass is half empty, okay? But you're being told, no, chief, it's full, it's half full. And you are content with that. And the question is, are people really content? Or is it a coping mechanism that we've acquired over time so that just to exist, you don't raise too much dust, you don't make too much noise, you know what you want, but you're not going to stand out and stick your neck out as the person who's saying these many things.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is that folks have not been shown the maximum potential of what is possible under proper leadership. And that's the truth. That this thinking that we're talking about now, we'll take the bare minimum. When a road is supposed to be done from point A to point B, completed, because you've not seen it, you'll say, well, at least they've put Maram. Do you see what I'm saying? So you say, well, okay, we are comfortable with that because, look, it's better than it was before.
Yeah.
And we're saying that an education that a child should get, this is what it should actually look like from start to finish. But you say, look, well, at least they're not in the house. You see?
You're taking the wins.
Yeah, exactly. So
small,
you're saying,
incremental.
Right, small
win.
incremental. You say, look, a marketplace where people are going to sell their wares or, practice their trade, like surrounded by garbage. Well, you say, well, look, at least the building is there for us to go and sell and we can pay a wage to somebody. You see what I'm saying? Because you have not, the reality of a maxed out potential has not been presented to people, and that's the truth. We can call it whatever we want it, we can shout it out from morning to night, but the truth of the matter is that the full potential of what is actually possible has not been shown. The order, the lack of corruption, the lack of impunity, the lack of thievery in broad daylight, the opposite has not been shown. I agree with what you're saying, that things are being done. If they weren't being done, we would be in an abyss. It would be terrible. We would not be able to. The truth of the matter is that things are being done. The lights are on and people can get from point A to point B. People can get something to eat. Sometimes. Okay? But what you're actually able to do, people have not grasped that. And because of that, you cannot then imagine what somebody who was able to take you then from that point of being able to eat to the point of self or country actualization has not occurred. Now, how dare you dream that it is possible
to get something
this side
bigger
of the pond to get somebody who would take you there? The truth of the matter is that it's imprinting. The next leader is more likely to follow what they have seen. The people who come into positions of leadership are going to say, who am I to change the status quo?
Yep.
I'm going to just go into, this is the way it's been done. Let's just get on the hamster wheel and keep going until my time is over.
That's because they're being nurtured by the current guy.
Exactly.
And the current society. This society that is saying, all right, I'll take this as a win. I'll take that 5% is better than 0%.
Exactly. Also,
all right? This other leader is showing you, just give them 5%, they'll be happy.
If you build one
5.
thing, imagine somebody comes in and says, let me tell you, I was there before. We've had these conversations. I was there before. Just build them one building. They will be happy. And then you finish and you go, one building. Can you imagine that is the standard that we've now set and say, just build one road. They will sing your praises forever. Meanwhile, on this planet, these human beings, thinking capacity, the same. Maybe some even more on this side of the pond. Thinking capacity, but they're able to do this simultaneously across board in concert. Human beings. So we ask ourselves, who is the next leader? Now, there are two. There is the one who will come and perpetuate the status quo, or there is the one who's going to turn the entire thing on its head and say, absolutely not. We will not continue this way. If we want to get to that place whereby a Kenyan today can decide, you know what? Everything I can do in this country, I've realized. Let me now go and climb let me say that my next goal is to climb all the mountains in the world. You're not worrying about what you're going to eat. You're not worrying about whether your children will go to school. No, that's been done. We've achieved. We've scaled. Let's do something else that will give me satisfaction. There's two leaders. There's one who will continue with this thing and will just keep tumbling down the road, or there's the one who say absolutely not. Let's walk upright up the hill. Who do you want it to be?
The main assignment lies with us, the voter, right?
Exactly.
To identify and to encourage that person to come out. Because that person currently, you hear all the time that we have conversations with MPs here and all, they tell you, you know what, as you're campaigning and you're thinking of the things that you want to do, you get into parliament and you realize there's how this system works. And you've got to conform at least to deliver that 1%. Because if you don't conform with this system, even that 1% you'll not deliver, you're going home. So there's a thing here that there are people who actually mean well, they want to do something, but then they get swallowed up into the system and they're forced to stay where they are. Now, can we identify those people and actually help them to remove the lead and show them that no, you go in there, we'll be behind you, we'll support you, go and topple that apple cart.
Can I give you an example? And it's totally different in terms of what it is, but the principle is the same. Where you're talking about egging somebody on as an electorate, as the people who are in the majority who know they want better.
Yep.
There's a woman called Billie Jean King. She's still alive. Pro tennis player. And she fought for equal pay between male tennis players and female tennis players. And she said, okay, we're winning the tournaments. I play a tournament, I win, you give me some money. But I know that because a man who is playing the same game that I'm playing is earning 9 times what I'm earning because he's a man. So do you know what she did? She got like-minded people, men, players, said, come on, guys, we're playing the same sport. Why can't we earn the same? These are people on the circuit. These are people who are traveling the world to play. These are organizers of a tournament. The US Open and the stadium where she plays today is the stadium where they play is named after her. So people who played on that particular Grand Slam, she said, you guys, let's be known as the Grand Slam, whereby number one, we pay people the same, man, woman, whatever it is that you would identify in the future. Let's pay everybody the same. This thing you're talking about egging people on, people of like mind hold themselves up in hotels, tournament after tournament after tournament, and they said, you know what, we'll do one of two things. One, we'll either not play, and this tournament will go down in blazes and it will never be heard of again, or we will insist that as you pay one, we will share the money so that it ends up that man and woman earn the same. And they did it over and over and over again until this tournament became the first one in the circuit whereby men and women earned the same amount of money, and others now followed suit. But it took one person to insist that this is what they wanted to see. And they knew that there were people who agreed with it, but they were silent because they did not know how. They had to come together. And that's what you're saying. I believe today that there are leaders in Kenya, there are leaders around Africa who are sitting quietly in the halls, in the shadows, because they've been swallowed up by the system. And they don't know what to do. But if they had people who would coalesce around them, who would be with them in concert, I'm telling you, the things that would happen here would be fundamental in terms of shift, in terms of governance, in terms of leadership, in terms of getting rid of corruption. If the system was so changed because you had people who would stand up and surround themselves. Right now, you have people who are standing up, but they're surrounding the wrong ideals. Now, imagine if you had the same ethos around the right ideals. How far would we be? That leader is here. The leader is here. The leader is with us. It's very possible they could not be in the National Assembly. It's also very possible that they are. But where is that coalescing to say, okay, we're hearing what you're saying, we're going to stand up against the status quo? That's what needs to happen.
You only need to look at the history of the founding president of this country. What he was, what he did, where he stood in the political. He was not at the top list of the leaders in the early days of this fight. He wasn't. KAU, Kenya African Union. He wasn't even the boss. No. If you're talking about luminaries who were in Legico, he wasn't even there. There is an interesting twist that only hindsight can provide you with answers to. When you look back, you say, oh, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then here we are. And do you're spot on. Why you're spot on is because you're right. There's no situation we have in this country. There are those who, for want of a different path to follow, will simply go the status quo. There are those who will be tired of it. So very tired of it that they will want to do something. And you know, oddly enough, the changes that we talk about that went over time and culminated in our new constitution was precisely the very thing that you're saying.
Yep.
Some people said, you know something, we'll be jailed, it's okay. Some will even die, it is okay. But this thing is going to change. And people were detained. Some were maimed for life. Some never recovered. That those who are dead are just not remembered. We have this tendency in this country, you start with Mau Mau, you forget the people who fought in Mau Mau, disregard them. Second liberation, you forget the people who suffered, died, jailed, went into exile, they're forgotten. Now, when we make the mistake of forgetting the path that led us here, we are forgetting our heritage. In Germany, because of the Holocaust is a taught subject. Taught. From the earliest possible stage, you are taught. There is no way you're going to go through that education system of university and claim you do not know, because you are taught. You even pass exams. That is how people understand that there are certain things in your history you must not push aside. And ours we shouldn't, and yet we do. You actually rewrite the history to favor those who are in power. And yet, if you look at this history, look at this discussion we're having. There are countries in our neighbors, you can't have this discussion. You can't have such a show. You actually can't. You have the show, but you know you're being waited for outside. The gains that we speak of and the benefits are evident all around us. But it is not right for us and for the next generation to put up with the little that we have when there's so much more that's available.
There's a lot.
That's it.
And if you just look around, like you're saying, those leaders are present. Those that were pushing for liberalism, those who were pushing for let's have openness of voice and thought and ideas, were many.
There were very many.
And they were just being, suppressed here and there.
Yes.
Some of them did not want political leadership.
No, they were not even
They
interested.
just were pushing for those ideals.
Yes.
Then there are those who wanted political leadership, who also had their own ideas. But somehow the society was not listening to them.
Yes.
For some reason.
Yes.
Because society was now being forced to look at this. When you talk about Meru, these are the kingpins. When you talk about Embu, these are the kingpins. Ukambani, these are the kingpins. Of course, these are the kingpins. By the status quo that is, hoisting some people and saying, when you think about politics in your area, this is the person. Anybody else with any whatever kind of voice, they are stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. And I guess that's the same thing that's happening even today. When you're thinking of the leader that's going to take over in 2032, that person is here. They're available.
It's true.
They're doing things. They're saying things. They're participating in certain conversations. They have some support in one way or another. Maybe what they just need is that encouragement. Come out and present yourself. Or maybe they are in the political arena right now. All they're just saying is that they're saying something where we are not hearing it. I keep saying Moi Kibaki was a happy accident for us as a country.
Why happy?
He was there.
Why accident?
He was there, in all those years in Kenyatta, in Moi, and he was since 92. People were saying, Kibaki, yeah. But people are not looking at Kibaki as the guy who's going to transform the country.
No.
People are looking at the Kibaki as, Kibaki.
Kibaki was Kibaki, yes.
He's been a vice president before, so he can be a president somewhere.
And
Why
then
not?
he became president.
He became president. And those things, if you look back, the things that Kibaki used to say when he's campaigning for presidency are the things he came to implement. And he was very clear, this is what we need to do as a country. And that's what made the difference.
We talk about change.
And I say happy accident because for a moment, we almost didn't get him.
Yes.
As a president. For a moment, we maybe, even 2002, maybe he may not have won had, these things aligned.
Very
these
true.
guys have not left Kanu.
Very true.
2007, he was being voted out by many people. Happy accident. Let's take a break, though. 25 minutes to 10. We want to hear from you. 0719-012-600. How do we identify the next crop of leaders who will take over from the current ones in 9 years' time?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
What are your goals for future study? High academic standards, amazing learning environment, multicultural communities? Well, the Study in Japan Global Network brings you the Study in Japan Fair for Kenya 2023. For students in arts, business, international studies, languages and sciences, come and meet with 18 Japanese universities on Friday, September 15th at the Embassy of Japan from 10 a.m. Plenty of scholarships are available. Apply before you leave or apply when you land. To join this event, log on to www.studyinjapanforafrica.com now.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier Service for all your courier needs. We deliver with
All right,
pride.
so we're looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. It will continue for some time, getting into the afternoon, highs of 26. And looking then into Nakuru, we'll see highs of 26 and highs of 24 in Nyeri. We'll go to highs of 26 in Eldoret, currently cloudy at 17. In Mombasa this morning, 25 degrees and sunny conditions. In Malindi, it's sunny as well at 25, going to highs of 29. Kisumu is cloudy, some rains expected, currently at 24. And Kakamega is cloudy as well, with rain showers expected at 22. Looking into Kampala, we'll see highs of 27 and we'll see highs of 29 in Dar es Salaam. Johannesburg will see highs of 22 and we'll see highs of 29 in Lagos, where it's cloudy through the day. Kinshasa is cloudy, going to highs of 30. Looking into Monday afternoon, Beijing is cloudy at 26, highs of 31. And we'll see cloudy conditions through Paris, going to highs of 26 and highs of 27 in a cloudy London. New York, still Sunday night, is cloudy. There will be a high temperature warning, going to highs of 34 and lows of 26. All right, still continuing. We're seeing a dwindling of traffic then coming into Kiambu Road and then off towards Muthaiga Square. So that should be over in a while. Coming out of traffic hour this morning, traffic is still pretty heavy on the Thika Superhighway. That's coming towards Pangani at the underpass. Langata Road coming off of Magadi, still a bit busy, but you should be fine after a while. And then on to Landis from Jogo Road, still bumper to bumper as you get towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. Mombasa Road has not been too bad today. Uhuru Highway, however, is busy from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out into the CBD at Haile Selassie. All right, we're going to keep an eye on things through the morning and see what it pans out to be. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on X.
Business News with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport Kipchumba Murkomen now says his ministry requires over 700 billion shillings for the completion of roads that were initiated by President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration. Murkomen noted that the said projects and which have since stalled should have been completed 5 years ago. He, however, assured President William Ruto's administration would finish the affected road projects, reiterating that no contractor would leave the site before the completion. Nairobi Securities Exchange Chairperson Kiprono Kitonyi has been shortlisted to be the next chair of the World Chambers Federation International Chamber of Commerce. The Kenya business leader is among 5 finalists whose candidacy is being reviewed by the Paris-based organization that serves as a global umbrella body of the Chambers movement worldwide. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is a member of WCF, has thrown its weight behind Kitonyi's candidacy. The group of 20 members agreed over the weekend to grant permanent membership to the African Union in an effort to make the group more representative. The agreement was reached at the inaugural session of the two-day G20 summit held in New Delhi during the weekend. In the first 8 months of this year, China's total import and export value was 27.08 trillion yuan, representing a slight decrease of 0.1% compared to the previous year, according to a report released by China's Customs. Liu Daliang, a spokesperson of the General Administration of Customs, mentioned that against the backdrop of sluggish global economic and trade growth, China's exports have continued to grow for the first 8 months of this year, and the global market share has remained stable. And passengers on Air China flight were evacuated upon landing in Singapore after one of the aircraft's engines caught fire, leading to a 3-hour closure of Changi Airport. Videos on social media showed passengers evacuating the aircraft using the emergency exit slide while dark smoke billowed from the engine that was still on fire. Other images taken inside the plane showed a dark cabin and the aisle blanketed in smoke. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, remember that song. Ni nani atakaye komboa Kenya.
Okay.
Ni nani atakaye komboa Kenya. Then they sing,
Rapatani
atuoli, mimi sijui. Liberate.
Oh, liberate.
Who is going to liberate this country? In about 9 years, in 2032, this current crop of top national leadership is basically going to take a backseat. That's a given. Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, who else? Give them. Uhuru has already taken a backseat. He's taking a bigger one. William Ruto, 2032, out. Martha Karua, 2032. Charity Ngilu, just all of them. Musalia Mudavadi.
In fact, many of them will have gone even before then.
Yes.
Gone as in, they'll be alive and well, but they will not
be actively participating in the leadership.
Actually, they will not be relevant.
That's the word.
That's really the heart of
the relevance.
Yes.
They will not be relevant.
No,
so who's going to take over? Who's this leader? Who are these leaders who are going to take over? Are they among the current crop of leaders? Are they among the... Well, of course, they're alive today. And they're sitting down and they're doing something. They're involved somehow. Maybe they're in the civil society. Maybe they're in the private sector. Maybe they're in the political scene. We don't know. But what kind of leader are we looking for? We're looking for that one who, like Ndo you said, who looks at the future and sees, how do I inspire this nation to actually grasp its full potential and go for it? How do I inspire this country so that we're not just dealing with every day with, amefungua hospitali, amekata ribbon ya kufungua barabara. That's what we're celebrating, but bigger things that move the country forward.
Well, I think also there's also the celebration in the shadowy, flowery things in terms of, who's shown that something is happening. But and I think here is that who has implemented what the flowers and the ribbons actually show, and who is going to make sure that the little things actually have been taken care of? Who's going to bite off this thing piece by piece, chew it, swallow it, and take off the next bite? And I think that is what people want. That you can, because look, let's be honest. If you look at the whole country and say, let everything be flowing as it should, let point A get to point B and let's move down this alphabet of development. Let that happen. But when you look at the picture in its entirety, it can be quite overwhelming, isn't it? That you say, look, let everything work in tandem. Let health work, let education work, let infrastructure in terms of roads. And we're not just talking about, your interconnectivity here and there, but we're also talking about the entire country, highways coming together. Let's make sure that trade works. Let's make sure that our external relations work. Let's make sure that all these things are working, and so that you get a seat at the table globally as well. It's a lot.
It is.
But what we are saying is, who is the leader who is going to chomp off a little bit, chew it, swallow it, and say, we're done with that. Let's move on to the next
On to the next one.
Who is that? Because that's what we need. You do not need somebody who's going to come and pander to the whims of
In fact,
their people. You need somebody who's going to be able to do the little bits and put them together.
In fact, now that you say it, Eric mentioned as we go into the break, Mwai Kibaki almost appeared like that reluctant leader that you had. Meaning, he was a man who seemed willing to say, look, enough is enough, I can do other things, I don't have to be president. And yet, he was the same person who had the presence of mind and the willingness, the fortitude, to actually quietly but very firmly take certain stands. I didn't think that in my lifetime I would see a situation where you walk in to the immigration and say you want a passport or you want it renewed, and you say, I want to travel to this place, here are my documents, blah, blah, and you're told, so it's an emergency, yes. How big do you want the passport to be? I said, what is available? Said, there's 30 page, there's 60 page, it costs this. Said, go and pay that counter. You pay. All right. Come back at 2, your passport, this is at 9. Come back at 2, your passport will be ready. See at what? Come back at 2, your passport will be ready. No one has asked you for a cent. Renewal, the same thing. You want to pinch yourself and say, am I actually in the same country or am I in a different country? The matatu industry gets a shock when people tell them, man, you either shape up or we're going to walk. We don't have to board the matatu. Now, that's people supporting you, knowing that you are also serious with what you're doing.
And that's what I'm saying. That is that first action that folks, I'm actually convinced that folks are baying for this one person.
They do.
They will
support. Who will stand up and say, guys, this is the way we're going to do it. And they will support.
Yep.
We have evidence of that. It's a beautiful example that you've given today. We have evidence of people who are ready to go around, essentially surround this person who will actually do that. I'm not going to endorse an individual today. I don't think the truth of the matter is that you don't know. But you know what? That person knows. Inside.
But look at the honesty of conversation.
Who they are.
But sometimes...
Oh, right. Actually, sometimes
you can look at somebody and feel that this
they
person,
have something.
they've got it.
It's true.
Right? And
You're
it's
right.
important that you actually come out and endorse them and say, this person. So that you're giving them that wind beneath their wings and you're telling them, go forth. I believe. I trust you. I see you can do it.
You know, Eric,
I believe you can do it. Go ahead.
You are
The
very
strength
right.
of that endorsement is just as strong as the system that has kept them quiet.
Yep.
And like I said, it could be a leader who is there today. It could be somebody who's still waiting in the wings. But the strength of that endorsement is just as strong as that which has swallowed them up in whatever silence that they're in today. And it's true that you would need that wind assistance to say, okay, it's possible also that that leader who would save Kenya, and I'm saying save Kenya because, yes, needs to happen, is one who's made a mistake of 3,000 or 5,000 up until date. But needs an opportunity to turn this thing on its axis and say, you know what? The thing that makes me who I am still resides within me. And I just need that little gusto that's going to launch this thing.
You know, there's a continuity of government that isn't often discussed as an honest conversation. You get the impression everyone wants to appear like they're the ones who are doing everything from start, and the other people preceded them didn't do anything. Now, President Kibaki stands out again. At no point in his 10 years did you ever hear him referring to President Moi adversely otherwise. Not once.
He didn't come back to say, no.
No. He focused on what he wanted to do. That was the focus. Didn't talk too much. Didn't make too much noise. You just saw things happening and changing and happening and changing. But that's how government works. If you have a blueprint for 30 years, there is no way one person is going to finish those projects. They'll get to a certain point, they'll hand the baton on to someone else, and it'll go on. But this presidency has introduced yet a change that actually ought to herald a new beginning. Changing what you call status quo. You know the hustler versus the dynasty conversation. Now, I don't know whether they realize what they've actually set in motion. Because the moment you get into power, you stop being a hustler, you also become a dynasty. So essentially, you've set up the structure and you've set up the framework for which someone to point and say, actually, this particular dynasty we don't need. we need somebody else. And you've said, even these things that you assume cannot be changed, can be changed. In my mind, that's what this government represented. This is the very thing that you think can't be changed in the way you can. It can be. Now, what one has set in motion, and this one is what I know. you cannot tell where it's going to get to. You have an idea of the direction, but you cannot definitively say, how that matter will conclude.
This is how it will go.
No.
Let's hear from you, 0719-012-600, going to the phone lines. John in Nyandarua, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
Yes, very fine. I'm still in Nyandarua.
Yeah. How is Henny?
It's raining now. Yeah?
Henny must be cold.
It's raining, but not very cold.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're happy.
Very good.
Now, going to the point that you put forward,
Mm-hmm.
The way to identify the next leadership is we shop for the contribution some of these characters have made in terms of their professionalism and in terms of their contribution in addressing issues regarding the country.
Yep.
We look for people who are truly nationalistic, not people who are regional. And we have a few people who fit that bill in this country.
Can you name some?
We have somebody like the former Minister of State, Mr. Fred Matiang'i. This is somebody who can really change this country without being tribalistic, and somebody who can take care of everything in the government, particularly corruption and other dirty things.
Who else?
He can ensure that development takes place. Then we have somebody like Peter Munya from Meru. This is a guy to watch. On the side of women, we have Mother Karua and Grace Wanga from Nyanza.
Gladys.
Gladys.
We cannot, Gladys Wanga. We also cannot fail to pick somebody like Tom Ojienda. This is a very polished person. If he comes out, this is somebody who can also play a significant role in changing the face of our country.
All right. Thank
But
you,
the
John.
one who tops is Matiang'i.
Matiang'i tops the list for you.
Exactly.
Sawa.
Then Mother Karua.
Thank you, John. But Karua, in the next 2032, do you still see her being in the front line?
She will not be there. Her only chance is 2027.
Okay.
If women can organize themselves properly, they have a very good chance. 2027.
All right. Thank you,
Yeah.
John.
That's all.
Frank.
Good morning, Eric and the team.
Good morning, Frank.
Morning.
Yeah, I reckon that President William Ruto's president is a blessing in disguise.
Is a what in disguise?
A blessing in disguise.
Okay.
And it's going to be to inform the future choice of especially young Kenyans. I say so because of the following reasons. William Ruto has been on the cards since 1997. He's been deputy president for 10 years, and now he's serving his first term. By 2027, many young voters will be clear in their mind as to whether an dyed-in-wool politician offers them the best choice of leading our country forward. And I am afraid to say that they are going to be very pessimistic about typical politicians leading this country. And they are going to look for a rank and file outsider. And this is where the women candidature comes into play. That for a long time, the women voters, women candidates have been marginalized from the pinnacle of power. So if the current crop of female governors do perform better and they demonstrate that we can be having a better chance trusting women with leadership, then I feel that the successor of William Ruto is likely to be a woman, and the women governors have a chance to prove that.
Right.
They are young enough. Cecil Mbarire is in her early 40s.
Gladys Wanga.
The Nakuru governor.
Susan.
Gladys Wanga. Those are younger women, and they have an opportunity to serve in an executive role. And if they prove that they have something different to offer, then Kenyans are going to shift and drift away from the rich, tribal
ethnic kingpins who are largely male and domineering and try something else. And I reckon it could be a female, and the women governors, especially the younger ones that are in that crop, have a better chance in 2032.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much. Let's hear from Andrew in Lavington. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Eric. This is Andrew Franklin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw one example at you. In 2014, I published an article in the Business Daily about the need to control the Somalia border completely. All 700 kilometers of it, border crossing and the like. Reconditioning our security forces and redoing the security so that the border would be under control. Not closed, but controlled.
Okay.
Now, ATMIS is leaving Somalia at the end of 2024. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think anyone's going to come up with another border control project to prevent Al-Shabaab from pouring across the border? The reason my project in 2014 was shot down, apparently, according to certain cynics that we all know about, was that it was not sufficiently large enough. It was less than $300. My $300 million. My continued presence on the project meant that there would be no stealing, and that it would be finished by October of 2015. 2015.
What's the context with the conversation we're having?
The context is, will this regime, this government, this new government, or the government that takes over, will they do anything different? Will there be anything different? You keep reporting about roads that are never built, schools that are never constructed, curricula that are never finalized. What I'm saying is that for an issue of great national security that's coming up, that we can actually see in the future, coming up when ATMIS leaves Somalia, and the federal government of Somalia loses control of Mogadishu, then who will protect the border?
Good point. Thank you, Andrew.
And the point is, people were so busy stealing, greedy, that they didn't want to get involved in a project that I was involved in, and the budget was too small.
Andrew, thank you very much for the contribution. 0719-012-600. We'd like to hear from you. I can see, Shege, you've been trying to call, and Victor as well in Nakuru. If you call, we'll pick up your calls in just a minute, because we are just about to conclude. The conversation we're having is, so who is going to take over in 2032? Clearly, our current crop of national leaders will be taking the back seat, will be retiring. Frank talks about, watch the current female governors. What do you think?
Well, look, I think, potential lies anywhere you would be interested to find it. And who's to say that something could not be nurtured in somebody else? And I think that what we've spoken about today is where it all comes from. It's just, look at the raging fires that take place in many of the forests around the world. What does it take? A spark.
Yep.
That's it. It has the potential to be something great, whether you want to think of fire as great or negative. But it has the potential to become something great. But all of these things have to be working in tandem. There has to be dry tinder. There has to be the spark. There has to be enough for it to go around. But that's all it takes. Who's to say that it couldn't be a female governor who's there today? Who's to say that it couldn't be a quiet member of parliament who's never made a submission?
Yep.
Who's to say that it couldn't be somebody who stood on the tops of vehicles and said certain things in certain ways but couldn't turn in the opposite direction? Who's to say? But it just needs that little push.
Yep. It's true. And I think we just need to start having these conversations and being very deliberate about it, knowing that what we are doing now is nurturing the next leader. And if we as a society don't actually think about it, then 2032 will come and we'll be left with just choosing the one that's on the table.
Unfortunately.
And if we don't think about who we want to be the next leader and what we want from them, what we demand of them, they will be coming in and looking at the current leaders and saying, okay, so the language that people understand is kutukanana kwa podium, let me tukanana kwa podium. Right.
Yeah.
If what we are looking for is maandamano, let me do maandamano. If what you're looking for is this tough talking, let me do tough talking. Keep it here. You'll enjoy the rest of your day, won't you? We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Have a good one. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire Dennis Aseto. Civil Servants Association in Trans Nzoia County has called on the DCI and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to investigate the reason that has caused the county's Road and Transport Department to use private vehicles to repair roads while there are vehicles owned by the county. The chairperson, Samuel Kiboi, said that more than 10 drivers are jobless while they are employed to serve the public.
Nataka kuuliza EACC pamoja na DCI iweze kuswing in kuchunguza. Tulinunua malori hizi zote 10, katapila 10, rollers 10 ambazo hazifanye kazi kwa nini? Na tunatumia watu wa kibinafsi kufanya kazi badala ya kulinda kaunti yetu, pesa kufaidi mwana Trans Nzoia. Nikiwa mtetezi wa wafanyikazi, ni aibu kubwa sana tuwe na madereva wakikaa bila kazi na tunatumia malori za kibinafsi kufanya kazi hiyo na makatapila za kibinafsi. It is very unfortunate.
He also revealed that another machine bought by the government for drilling wells in villages and in government institutions so that citizens can't get clean and safe water has been abandoned, and another one hired from private individuals.
Uchimbaji wa maji, tuko na malori karibu 6 ambazo zilinunuliwa kuchimba maji kwa wana Trans Nzoia na sehemu mbalimbali na kusupply maji kwa wana Trans Nzoia. Lakini hivi sasa tunatumia malori za kibinafsi. Nataka kujua hizi malori za kibinafsi ni ya nani na ni nani ndiye anayefaidi kutoka katika lori hizi, na ni kwa nini tunatumia malori za kibinafsi wakati tuko na rasilimali ya kaunti hii ndani ya kaunti. Hatuwezi kuwa watu ambaye tunalangua kaunti hii, haikubaliki.
Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service Felix Koskei has urged political leaders from all parties to set aside their differences and join forces to deliver development to the Kenyan people. Speaking during a Thanksgiving ceremony in Kilifi County, Koskei emphasized that the government has ambitious plans for the country, including infrastructure projects like new roads and improved water supply systems. They even featured the presence of notable leaders, including Public Service Affirmative Action and the Gender Cabinet Secretary Aisha Juma. Koskei acknowledged significant strides in combating substance abuse in the region, but stressed the need for continued joint efforts at both levels of government to protect the younger generation from this menace. Persons living with disabilities in Nandi County have faulted officers from Social Protection and Labour Ministry following alleged discrimination in the Inua Jamii program registration exercise that commenced last week. Addressing media in Nandi Hills town, James Kirwa, spokesperson to the special group, noted that only few of the persons who turned up were registered, as others were turned away by officers in charge. Kirwa further said that minimally impaired Kenyans were also considered into the scheme, but a good number of potential individuals were ignored by the officers. He said a middle-aged male from Soyet village in Chemoni sublocation hung himself over the rejection. Now, 4 people have sustained injuries in a road accident along the Nairobi-Mombasa highway. In Makueni Eastern Regional Police Commander Joseph Olenepeyan said the injured included 3 men and a woman. The accident involved 3 vehicles, a Prado, a lorry and a trailer. The quartet were all occupants of a Toyota Prado that got involved in the accident at a Malindi shopping center within Salama. The incident was reported to Salama Police Station. The road carnage came barely 24 hours after another accident happened in the area in Voi, Taita Taveta, where at least 12 people lost their lives. The Voi accident, 2 vehicles collided head-on, resulting in deaths on the spot. The accident occurred at around 4:20 p.m. on the Nairobi-Mombasa highway. Residents of Kariba village in Mwea, Kirinyaga County were shocked after a human body was discovered by 2 children who were swimming in River Kanaro within Mwea Irrigation Rice Farm. The body of a 36-year-old man was discovered discovered by the 2 children who were swimming in the river. The children ran to inform people who were selling hay along the Mwea-Embu highway. The businessmen informed the Thiba police officers and Thiba location chief, who responded immediately. According to Thiba location chief Maina Kamenya, the man identified as James Mugo Gishobi went missing Thursday, and the family had been looking for him. Now, having admitted the African Union as the permanent member, the Group of 20 took a historical step forward in improving global governance and revitalizing international economic cooperation. The expansion agreed by G20 members gives developing countries a greater voice and more representation. More cooperation and development opportunities will gravitate towards the global south as China and other major economies have pledged staunch support for the region to shine in the global arena. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto. Good morning.